What's up, you filthy casuals?
Hello, I'm Taboo.
And I'm Church.
And we are the Dark Souls 2.
And welcome to the Dark Souls 2, where this week we've done that intro twice in the last, 3 minutes.
I'm so sorry. It's my fault.
I don't mind.
I'm your host from across the pond, Germ Gaming. And yes, that's right. This week we are joined by our brothers from Australia, the Dark Souls 2, Church and Taboo. Welcome back, guys. Woo!
Like a one big
Good to have you guys.
Thank you for having us.
You told me the first thing I should do is ask you why you lazy assholes haven't been podcasting. So, what's new, guys? How's it going?
I also followed that up with, we don't actually have an answer to that question. We'll just make it up.
You did, but you told me I maybe should ask you, so here we are.
We got a little bit busy. Wait, that's all. I didn't mean like us. I just meant like our life.
You had the motion there and everything.
I haven't crawled out of the love cave in about 2 months.
I'm personally going to pin it all on Church.
Yep. Well, that's what happens in the love cave anyway. Life has kind of gotten in the way, and there's I don't know if
Such a shit excuse.
No, yeah, well, it's true.
Where's my notes, Church?
I don't fucking know.
No,
Yeah, look,
you
it's
don't
kind of
fucking
like
note.
Yeah, fair. That's a fair pun, all right. Yeah, look, it's on the to-do list, isn't it? Right?
2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, look, the intention is to finish Dark Souls 2 and then just kind of disappear from the world.
Really? Playing Bloodborne. So
Duty's been fulfilled.
I've not seen him much at all over the last 2 months, so if you're missing him, so am I.
No one cleans up after him now.
So the love cave is a lie then.
How has Dark Souls been going? When we talked last time, you guys hadn't beat it or anything, had you? Had you beaten it?
Like on an individual level, yes, but on the podcast, no. I believe, and so that's kind of where we're at now.
I suppose we should touch on it. It's been a year exactly. We recorded Good Friday last year, and it's Good Friday holiday again this year.
Wow. Okay.
And think about how much we've changed. Taboo's using big boy diapers now, the pull-up ones, and I don't have to carry wet wipes anymore. Like, life is so different.
It's been a good year. Wow.
Joel's movie still isn't out. That's the first thing I can think of. I'm sorry.
Come on, Jeremiah. He's already moved on to board games. It's all over now. He's found a better direction for his Kickstarters. Faster turnaround time, this side of a decade.
But until you guys' little bit of a sabbatical, how the podcast has been going well, hasn't it? I've only listened to the ones up to where I was in the game, I guess, until you guys went on sabbatical. But has it been going well?
If I'm being honest, okay, so, obviously, for those that don't know, I got bit by a dog and I've got wicked scars and all kinds of surgery and stuff. So that
pretty
put us
badass.
out initially. I mean, that was unforeseen. That was legitimate. We disappeared for a month or 6 weeks because of that. But
the trick is to
I
dash to
think
the side and stab
probably
in the
what
back.
really happened is we got to the
Dragon Eerie.
yeah. No, well, I'm talking about we got to a place where we could really wrap up what was going on with the story and the lore, which was like episode 19 or 18 or something.
Aldia's Keep.
And
Before Dragon Eerie.
Like we just hit everything that was important from that point on. I've kind of felt like it's just sort of tidy up, I guess. And we've obviously got to finish, but I know Church has been under a shitload of stress due to work and many other reasons, and I just don't want to be the one that's piling more stress on him by
But if you don't push me, I don't move. That's the deal. But yeah, look, it'll get done.
Well, I mean, we obviously weren't putting any pressure on you, but
I kind of want to put a little pressure on you. Is there any
Please
chance you could do the Dark Souls 1 lore?
Joel would like to
minor
place
amount
an
of
order
pressure.
for one additional game, please. Please do all the lore for that.
That's our $1,000 Patreon donation.
I actually wouldn't mind doing
Got
that.
me covered.
Because I quite like the lore of Dark Souls 1. It's an investment that I wouldn't feel completely responsible making because I'm not sure that I would follow through all the way, and I think there'd be hiatuses in between that would make it difficult on this guy. But also, I feel like it's been done. I feel like it's just been covered so much, particularly by Vardy Video. I think the way that he handled the lore was really
But
good.
not the
and it was
sweary,
quite-
drunk way that you guys do it. It's so good. 'Cause you guys just like bitch constantly, and I love it. It's just really good.
like
I've
Buddy,
actually
but more
played through
talks.
some of the areas listening to your podcast. It's really fun. 'Cause I'm like walking
thank
this way,
you.
and I'm just like waiting. I'm like, okay, they're gonna catch up. Oh nope, they're pissed at each other. This will be about 5 minutes. I'm just sitting here leveling up.
You see, when I listen to parts of your podcast, I'm like, where does all this lore come from? I missed all of this when I was killing stuff.
You were too busy moaning and yelling and grunting and being angry to miss all that.
At one point in Dark Souls 2 was there poems about boats and piers.
Yeah, I mean, I went to high school with this guy, so I had so much practice just ragging on him, and it's what comes natural.
So when you guys were on here last year, you're like trying to convince me, or Joel, I think, was using you guys as a ploy to try to convince me to try Dark Souls. Since then, I'm happy to report I've beaten Dark Souls 2. With the help of my sponsors, Mark and Joel, who carried me on their broad backs through the entire game. I did the manager style of playthrough, where you summon other people in to fight all your battles for you, and you just supervise and collect souls. But I did...
Guys, we did a speed run pretty much. How many hours? I think it was 7 hours. We beat the entire game in like 7 hours.
I got not almost to the end. How far did I get, Mark? 2/3?
Yeah, you were about 2/3.
I was about 2/3 of the way through, and I had to reinstall Windows. And I thought, since it validated my saves every time I loaded the game, that since I had an online save system, it would save my saves online.
Ooh,
and
ouch.
it did not. And I lost them, and I tried to copy Mark's save over because he was in the same place, and then just like respec the character to be what mine was, and it wouldn't let me.
Used to
It wasn't
work.
validated.
Months
So I
ago,
had
they
to-
patched it and it stopped working.
Yep.
You need to have the same user account on Steam.
Yep. So I wasn't. I had to start the game over from scratch, and that one, it wasn't 7 hours, Joel. I think it was about 15 or 16 hours, but I did kind of just power through it in the last.
Oh,
couple
I
weeks.
guess I'm just thinking like the last like 4 or 5 days.
The part you
we
were there
just,
for, yeah.
We
Mark-
just like
Mark was the
banged
guy
it
who
out.
tirelessly, every time I would just summon him, be like, "Hey, buddy, you want to play some Dark Souls 2?" And he just would very patiently come on board and very patiently explain everything to me again.
Because he knew what you were saying wasn't, hey, come play Dark Souls with me. It's, hey, come play Dark Souls for me. It's a very specific request.
And that's the type of friend Mark is. If he has an opportunity to look down on you and help you, he does it.
Ah, that's excellent. That's the best kind of helping someone.
No one
There's a
can
nice
look down
egotistic
on you.
reward.
Hey, Mark's taller than you too, Joel. You're going to meet him tomorrow.
All right, excited.
Mark is coming. I don't know when it comes out in you guys' area, but we are all tomorrow evening going to see Fast and Furious 7 in IMAX, which we're really excited about.
Apparently, it's been getting really good reviews.
I know. Are you guys
Yeah,
big
someone
Fast and
pinched
Furious
his
fans?
testicles just then. Say again.
Are you guys big Fast and the Furious fans?
Do you know, I've actually never seen one.
What?
Yeah.
That was-
But
that
I
was
like,
me
there's all these
until,
movies, everyone's
last
like, you
year.
haven't seen Shawshank Redemption? You haven't seen Titanic? It's like, no, I haven't.
I haven't seen Titanic.
I've seen, like, Big Trouble in Little
Highlander.
China. And Highlander's fucking amazing, okay? Like, I got no time for someone that doesn't like Highlander.
I've never seen Highlander. But I have seen The Shawshank Redemption, the greatest movie of all time, so whatever.
I wouldn't know.
I've seen.
But yeah,
it
no, I've never
like
seen Fast
3
and the Furious.
times.
Like, it's just, they drive a car really quickly and then someone shoots somebody.
No.
Okay,
It starts out that way, but
I
now
thought it was
it's
a
about
really,
family.
I thought it was a really cheesy like movie series. Like I'd never seen before. I binge watched through them just like 2 weeks ago. Jeremiah let me borrow his Blu-rays, and the first movie was actually really good. Like I was impressed. Like it wasn't as just car racing kind of douchebaggery. I almost felt like I was like, I'm not into the car racing scene at all. Is it just gonna be that? It's actually a lot more than that, and it's actually really surprising, especially towards the last 3 movies. They're insanely good. Like, I mean, they're just fun movies. You know, don't worry about like plot holes or anything like that. But stories kind of connect really well, and it's about, like you start caring for the characters, and it's really not as much about racing. Like, it has cool racing, and you actually look forward to seeing the parts when they drive the crazy cars and do just insane stuff.
So you've been able to
I'm really excited about
actually
7.
Change the
Do you have
podcast
it?
from the Bloodborne podcast to the Fast and the Furious franchise podcast, Jeremiah, you son of a bitch. It was your plan all along, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, I'll watch that stuff. All right, fine. But in the chronology, is the Shawshank Redemption set before Fast and Furious 1?
It is, yes. It is
Okay,
set in
I better
the
watch that
early,
first.
in the Depression, right?
Yeah, that's how he escapes from jail, right? He just jumped in like El Tigre and
Oh, I
starts
see.
drifting.
Okay, so
All right.
let's talk about some gaming thing.
Yeah.
Some
that.
gaming thing.
So, are you guys thinking about transitioning to podcast? Are you thinking about just shutting it down when you're done with Dark Souls 2, or are you thinking about transitioning to Bloodborne?
Well, this is kind of a conversation we have on an ongoing basis. We did reserve a URL that would allow us to have a kind of Bloodborne-related thing.
So here's my position. We came up with 2 really exceptionally good names for a Bloodborne podcast, and so it would be a real shame to see that go to waste.
Is one of them
That's
the
pretty
Blood
much-
Bros?
Blood Brothers, I think, was one, which is my least favourite. I think I'm a fan of Bloodborne Transmission. 8?
Oh,
That's pretty. I think he came up with that one.
That's really good. Oh man.
Yeah.
Where do I
So it'd be a shame
subscribe?
to see it go to waste. But look, honestly, I would love to, but I just don't think it would be responsible seeing how we haven't even got through Dark Souls 2. How can we start a new project when this one is undedicated to the current project?
A
Well, I
fair
mean, how much do
criticism.
you have left with the Dark Souls 2?
We've
if you've gotten enough, I mean,
3 to 4 episodes to cover all of the main areas, which, to be honest, is our major goal at the moment. If we can do that, then we can walk away happy at least. Like, we've covered the whole core game. You know, it doesn't include the DLC, sure, which would be nice, but really, I mean, the core game is the main goal at the moment.
I'm of the view that a bit of a lore wrap up about the DLCs would kind of cover them off. They've been out for so long, and they're not really massive, each kind of individual DLC, that it might not be worth dedicating a walkthrough to them. But I think there's some really interesting lore stuff that happens in the DLCs that I think really ought to be covered off. Someone said to us on Twitter recently that in the DLCs, From had retconned our podcasts, and I'm not sure that I agree, but there are some really interesting lore explanations that are in the way the DLCs play out, and I just would love to go through those. So I think kill
we were
all
helping
the
Jeremiah,
areas and then just do a lore wrap up.
when we helped Jeremiah go through it on the last binge before Bloodborne came out, seeing the I think the what was the name of that crazy bonfire thing that like spurred? Have you guys seen that yet with the patch? Have you guys
the
played
tree?
it?
The tree that
it's like
comes
a
out of the
giant tree that
ground?
comes out of the flame. I think it's the gosh, what's the name of
can't remember the name.
the new game now? It's called Dark Souls 2.
Oh,
Scholar of the First Sin?
Yeah, is it the Scholar? Is that the Scholar Lost Sin? Oh, don't tell me then. It scared the crap out of me because I wasn't expecting it. I was like, whoa, what is this? I'm like, another boss. So I'm excited to actually play on the PS4 to kind of go all through it again. To kind of
Fair enough, yeah.
in a while
For
after
me-
I'm done with Bloodborne, which will be a while.
The thing about the DLCs for me is the Fume Knight. I can't get past how much I enjoyed the Fume Knight because he was actually hard. Like the other Dark Souls 2 bosses are kind of like, you know, the fights can be a bit repetitive in the sense that you die the same way. But the Fume Knight was a genuine challenge. And I thought, like, this is why I'm playing this game. And I have to wait for a DLC to come out months after the release. And
The Fume Knight is that's the one that was you had to put the little like sticks in around the sides.
yeah,
before
that's the
boss.
DLC.
Dude, that boss was insane. That took
I
me
loved
and
it.
John forever to beat that boss. Like that was like the raging, like holy crap. But it was so satisfying to finally beat it. I was like, yes!
Exactly.
What is it with beating a boss? Do you feel like you can go back and help other people and like immediately beat it right away? And I was like, because I can almost every other boss, you're like, oh, I know what to do. That one still, I helped other people, got trashed again. I was like, I just got lucky.
Yeah.
No, look, Dark Souls 2 is like that. I mean, I've had that rage moment probably twice already with Bloodborne, and I've only killed 3 bosses. And I've never had that rage moment with any other game. Like Dark Souls 1, like hard bosses, bashing my head up against them, super fun though. Like Artorias, most enjoyable boss in the entire series, but ridiculously difficult.
Oh yeah, like he was hard, but really fun.
Like most rewarding boss in any game ever so far, in my opinion. Like the perfect balance of difficulty, risk, reward, and just genuine like elation when you finally get him. But yeah, with Bloodborne, it's like I'm on the 3rd boss, and I'm like 90% of people are not going to play the game past this point.
So I guess we'll transition into Bloodborne now. That seems like a good jumping off point.
Segues aren't as good when you point them out, Jim.
Someone had to call him out finally.
Man,
Hey, well,
a superior
amateur hour
podcast
here.
host is
Our
calling
hosts
me
have
out
got to
here.
learn some point.
Oh my. See if I ever let you host again, Joel.
You shouldn't be such a dick, Taboo. Don't be a dick to people. It's not nice. All right.
All right, so Bloodborne came out recently, last week, in fact, and I think we are all playing it. You guys, how far are you into Bloodborne so far? I guess Taboo, you're at the third boss. Fourth boss?
We got through the third last night. Fourth boss now.
Yeah. And it was hard.
When'd you guys get the game?
Oh, God. How long ago? Like a week?
Okay, so it was a bit of a farce, actually, because between Church and I, we're still discussing the whole Bloodborne podcast, and so we did the math, and financially it was going to be over 1,200 Australian dollars to both buy a PlayStation 4, both buy the game, and both get, like, PS Plus. And so we're like, so we put it out to our friends on Facebook, and some guy that we've not hung out with for over a decade that we knew in high school was like, yeah, you can borrow our PS4. So we're borrowing a mate's at the moment. I had to go away to the eastern states in Australia for 4 days. So right after the game came out, so basically we got it the day it came out. I gave Church the console. He played it for like 4 days straight. Then he's given it back to me. I played it for like 4 days straight. And then last night, in preparation for this, we had a little pillow party, and he stayed over, and we played as much as we could and got to the fourth boss.
I prefer to call it a cuddle puddle, but that's just me. Yeah. So the third boss was obscenely difficult, and it was
the
awesome to
Bloodstarved Beast.
Yes.
Bloodstarved Beast. Yeah, that's the one I'm on right now, and that might be the one that I'm on when I give the game back to eBay.
Yep.
Blood abortion.
So I can get that guy down to like a quarter health without losing any health myself. Piece of cake. And then he goes into beast mode, and it's just like, what the fuck? So
for those who don't know, you got that thing where at a certain time in the move set of an enemy, when they're about to attack you, you can shoot them in the face with the gun, and then they get staggered. You can do a special attack. So I'm watching Taboo last night, just playing against the blood-starved beast, and I'm thinking he's doing better than I was, but he's still not doing great. And then finally it's down to a fifth of its health. He staggers it and does the special attack, and he says, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that."
I did accidentally.
What's the gun for then? Like, fucking hell.
So, Joel, did you type that you wanted to talk about the negative stuff first?
Yeah, I thought let's get that out of the way first.
You just want me to just get the blood up now?
I've got some negative stuff too. You think I'm like all perfection? I love every little second of it.
No, I don't. No. But the negative is going to be 5% you, 95% me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this game's not for everyone. So
what are you doing?
I have a list of negatives.
All I can see is a bright white screen. Your camera just auto adjusted for. It's still. It's
not going to work.
It's a note-taking app. I've made a list of things that I hate about the game.
Can I say it?
Awesome, sweet. Okay, well, let's launch in and let's just talk about everything we hate about Bloodborne. Dave, would you like to go first?
The camera
over on the left.
The camera.
Now, I agree with you, but do you think that's just you're a PC player who has just started playing on a console again for the first time in a decade?
No, I think it's a bit of both. I think Last of Us's camera is superior, playing multiplayer in there. Bloodborne's camera, at one point on the first boss, my camera got stuck underneath the bridge that you were fighting on top of. And so I had this awesome view of like one polygon with a smeared texture across it for like 6 seconds while I got hammered by the boss until I could swing the camera out from underneath. I also got pinned in an archway where the camera got stuck between the boss and the archway, and I couldn't get it out, and then I couldn't roll past it.
I actually mentioned one thing, Dave, that you might not have thought about is that you can't rotate the camera when you're actually locked on someone. So when you're locked on it, it's not getting stuck. It's actually you just can't move it when you're locked in. I'm talking about the camera colliding with actual meshes though in the levels. Like that happens a lot. But I beat the first boss finally after I stopped locking on with the camera. I lost against the first boss 8 times. 8 times, I think.
Wow.
Stopped locking on with the camera and beat him the next time I tried.
Wow.
And you were also leveled at 27 or something like that. They just stuck in the same area and leveled up an ungodly amount.
I didn't really get stuck. Like I stopped attacking the boss actually and spent a couple of days just harvesting.
He's going to love this shout out. He might actually be in the chat, but one of our biggest fans, Stutch, he reckons he got to like level 67 by the second boss or something. Because I was asking for tips on the third boss. And he's like, oh, blah, blah, do this. Oh, by the way, I was level 67. I'm like, well, no wonder I'm having a hard fucking time.
Is there really a good way to do a camera, though, like when you're fighting bosses and enemies that you're underneath? Like, I've been thinking about this. Like, how could that actually work well? Because so many of the camera problems for me come in when I'm fighting something that I, am underneath.
Yeah.
like that. I just don't know how that could work.
And that's actually, Mark, where if I can just jump in real quick, Jeremiah,
Sure, yeah.
with the controller, that's actually the other half of it, where I think there is part camera problem that really there's no good solution for, and it's half controller problem. I've been playing a lot of Shadows of Mordor on PC, and also Witcher 2, and both of those have some camera issues too, where the camera will get stuck on things. But with a mouse, I can flick the mouse and kind of knock the camera loose quickly. With a controller, you're kind of just stuck trying to pull the camera loose. And that's more of a preference thing for me, is that I like the ability to flick quickly.
Well,
Maybe I'm weird.
also, it's not that the camera in Bloodborne is so much worse than the cameras in other third-person games. It's that the penalty for the camera getting stuck on something is so much worse. Because it's
Seconds
that quarter
count.
of a second, right? It's that quarter of a second in that you're going to die. And that's happened to me numerous times. Is I'm dodging around a boss really quickly, not looking at my surroundings a ton because I'm concentrating on trying to like swallow an antidote really quickly so I don't die in the next 3 seconds. And I'll like roll to the side and get stuck, and the camera gets stuck behind something, and then by the time I figure out what's going on and try to roll out from it, I'm being beaten to death, and it's all over in a second and a half.
Beaten to death? You get one hit to death. There's no beating. It's just...
But that's why I think the issue is with the camera. It's not that the camera itself is so bad, it's that the rest of the game is not forgiving of the fact that the camera is
That's
so
a
bad.
good way to look at it. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Actually, that's most of the issues with the game, is that it's not forgiving of its problems. Like, it has problems, but they don't... They're just kind of... It seems like they went, well, yeah, that's going to be a problem, and just moved on to something else.
I'm probably
Being
gonna
like
disagree
that
with
with-
that only because I think, like, I mean, I've never had the camera ever once get stuck on something. Like, the camera will rotate through an object. Like, if I rotate around a block, I'm behind a block. Like, the camera can't move forward, because if it does that, then you're getting a different camera view of what you're not supposed to see. You know what I mean? Like,
other games have done it smart. I mean, there's ways to
like, I mean,
work
no, I'm
around
saying
it.
you can get a camera that, like, it shifts against a wall and it kind of comes in close. I think that would be a little weird sometimes for Dark Souls if you do that, and then it moves out really wide to see the entire boss, because a part of it is camera control. You do have to get good at it and go, all right, I need to look here. I can't look over here. I shouldn't be tucked into a corner where I'm not going to see anything. I should be out over here. So I think part of it is playing, but I mean, yeah, you'll rotate around stuff where the camera goes through stuff, but I wouldn't say it ever gets stuck on anything. It's more of trying to balance. You are using a third-person camera. You got to figure out how to use it.
I haven't had anything get stuck like Dave. I think Dave experienced just a glitch in the game, which will probably be patched.
Dave's
That's like a glitch in the mesh. No, I haven't experienced it actually literally getting stuck on something. I've experienced it getting caught on something temporarily. Like it slows down going through a block, or it goes places a camera shouldn't be able to go very temporarily, and that's when the problem
Like
starts.
a colonoscopy.
You know, I haven't encountered the getting stuck or even slowing down on things thing. But last night we were in an area after the Bloodstained Beast where you're in a big circular tower and there's all this rotting kind of wooden infrastructure inside. You got to jump down between the bits, and so necessarily you need to kind of look down. So the camera necessarily kind of goes above your head, and there's all these like kind of textures that obviously are just textures, and there's no actual block to go through. And so the camera rests inside of them, and you see the inside of the texture, and it's like, this is a part of the game where the entire point is to look down. Did they play this part of the game before they published it? Because I just can't get it done.
It was probably like there was just a broken link when they went to compile everything. Like they played, it's like, it's good, render. And something broke on the way out the door and didn't make it onto the disc. And then by the time they saw it, they're like, ugh, dang it.
So
Probably
we've
quietly patched.
We've told a
By the
story
way-
on our
Go
podcast
ahead.
about how for every single Souls game up to this point, I always like send an elevator up the first time I find an elevator, then quickly jump off it to see if there's like a hidden secret area underneath the elevator. And so far, it's never paid off. And then I think one place in Dark Souls 2 finally had that. I was like, yes, I've checked every one, and it finally does it. Bloodborne, we checked last night with one of the elevators, and sure enough, like you can see this full room below the elevator. There's a floor to it. There's like walls. There's like these archways and all kinds of stuff. And Church is like, yeah, sweet, go down there. And I'm like, ooh, there's something about the way those shadows look that don't look like it's quite rendered properly. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to fall through the ground. He's like, no, that's fine. So we dropped
The
down,
note
and
says
sure
take a
enough,
step
like
forward.
straight through the floor into blackness.
So why is there a texture there?
Yeah.
Why not just leave it blank?
Well, just in case, I guess if you peek over the edge, they want it to look like there's something there. So you're like, oh, yeah, and you just move on. Not, come exploring.
The nice thing about that one, though, is that it's right by the lamp. So, I mean, you're not really in danger of losing your
true.
echoes. It's just, I think that's a little bit of a troll, but it's not that offensive.
Wow. This guy really is a nerd. He knew exactly what we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing.
All right, so Joel, you're next in the line. What do you not like about Bloodborne?
I think a lot of I kind of miss being able to just morph from another bonfire or another lamp to another one, and not necessarily actually like one lamp. Like I'm like, I don't hate it that much. I think the biggest thing is I kind of wish there was a picture. I don't even care about the load times. I wish there was a picture by where you're going to, because there's a few names I kind of forgot. I'm like, wait, what was that place I was exploring? Where I did like in Dark Souls 2, it had an image. You know,
if you accidentally go to the wrong one, that's like an extra 3 minutes of staring at load screens to go there, realize you've messed up, come back, and then go to the right place.
Yeah,
like that's a long time.
That's the thing. There is no reason you shouldn't be able to warp from the lantern to other lanterns, but they make you go to Hunter's Dream to warp to another lantern. It's like, that's 2 loading screens when it could have only been 1.
There's a part that I like and I don't like about it at the same time. And it made me think about something I really, really loved in Dark Souls 1. I like that you couldn't warp to any place till like after like 35 hours in the game. Because I liked when you earned it, it was really nice. Because I like that because in Dark Souls 2 you really default on warping everywhere, and you miss out on tons of stuff just because you don't have to go through it again. You don't have to like explore. You're like, oh, I didn't see that door before, because you spent hours in the game and you like pass by like 4 or 5 doors you can't go through. Then later on in the game when you can warp, you're never gonna go down that hallway again unless you're someone who just wants to explore everything. That's true. Yeah. So I do like at some point where it's kind of like, do I want to warp back? Because it's going to take a little while. So I'm like, nah, I think I'll just run through it. And then I found something new. So one part I like it, but then when I just want to go, Jeremiah wants me like to help him with some boss. Okay, I do have to load over here. Then I do have to load over there. So I think, it's like there's parts I like it. I almost wish it was like Dark Souls where you couldn't warp everywhere. You could warp to the main lanterns from anywhere.
I think as well.
But to do that, they couldn't have the Nexus. Like, you'd have to have this nice, beautiful, free-flowing world, which is the one thing Dark Souls 1 has just head and shoulders above any other game.
Which was kind of going to be my point, that I think that the ability to warp is almost an excuse for lazy map design, because the maps in Dark Souls 1 were so amazing that it was okay that I had to walk everywhere. I really enjoyed doing it. Whereas kind of other games, Dark Souls 2, for instance, the maps are nice and interesting, but I wouldn't want to have to run through them a dozen times just to get anywhere.
Which raises a slight concern I have with the game that I don't know yet, because Church is saying that it's his favourite game in the series already. And I'm saying, well, we're only sort of 3-4 bosses in. I can't make that decision yet, because there's so much more that needs to be involved, like proper balanced PvP and replayability and all this, which I don't know yet.
Church was right.
Almost always.
I'll vouch for him.
Okay. But my slight concern is they've got this really awesome like gothic theme to the game, which is great. It feels amazing, it's unique, it's different enough from all the other games to keep it interesting, but I'm wondering if it's going to allow for very distinct areas. Like in Dark Souls 1, everything was interconnected, but you knew, like, the moment I walk over this one threshold, I'm in a very unique area and everything's changed, and I'm like just taking it all in. Whereas Church was saying last night, we got to this area and he stopped for a second and he looked over an edge and he's like, look at this. There's like this enormous tree that's stunning and all this amazing architecture. I'm not even looking at it because it just feels the same,
So at McDonald's, when there's a line, right, and a bunch of people ordering, you just march up to the front and just do whatever the fuck you want? Okay. I think it's still Joel's turn.
I think I can definitely say, I mean, I'm almost 40 hours in. The game has been blowing my expectations out of the water. That's exactly what. That's what actually me and my. That's what me and John were really. My friend John, like, I got him into Dark Souls because a friend of mine got me into Dark Souls 1, and then I just like, wow, it clicked.
You just had to return the favor.
Yeah, I had to return the favor. Yeah.
Became a prophet John got of the Souls.
He played kind of through Dark Souls 2 first because it kind of came out right around the time he was going to play. Then we went back and finished Dark Souls 1, and he loves Dark Souls 1 over 2. But he. And we both were like, oh, is there going to be an area like Anor Londo, like that moment that happens that it just blew my mind. I was like, I'm hoping that Bloodborne was going to have it. And, for a while, I'm like, okay, this is a lot of kind of like, I'm in this still castle town area, I love the themes of it, but I'm also like, I kind of want to go into an area that you're like, oh shit, where am I, Let's just say that happens. So you have no fears. It gets nuts, man.
Because I kind of feel like in the other Souls games, the worlds were such that you can walk out onto a balcony and see that you're like 500 stories off the ground
You can
on
do
this
that.
giant
You can do that.
cathedral, and it kind of makes sense. But I've seen just after the Bloodstained Beast this area where it's like I can look and there's this giant town where everything's 20 stories high and really massive, and I kind of think, isn't this like grimy little Victorian England where the tallest building is 3 stories tall? It just kind of seems a bit disjointed right now. But having said that, you're far further along than I am.
I don't want to change the subject, but it is interesting that Church has mistakenly said Bloodstained Beast 3 times because that's actually what I call my dick.
Oh, wow.
Mark, how long have you been holding on to that one? Like 2 minutes.
I wanted to say it the second time, but I thought, no, I'll wait.
He's been holding on to that one since about puberty.
Well, Mark,
You have to know when to attack.
Oh my god, that was really, really good.
Saving your stamina till now.
you beat the game. What do you not like about Bloodborne? Because you are probably the most qualified to talk about it.
I don't like that you don't like it, and I don't like it.
I agree with that. I agree.
No, I don't like the reasons. Like, I think the beckoning system is.
Oh, that's my thing. Don't take that away from me. I want to complain so hard about that.
Well, you go ahead because that's the reason.
No. It's not my turn. It's not my turn.
Okay,
it's not my turn.
See,
I don't want to steal your. I don't want to steal your thing, but like, yeah, I've had a few problems with the camera. I don't like. I think the shortcuts are really sweet. I don't think they're quite as good as Dark Souls 1. The shortcuts are more like, this is really awesome, exclusive to this area. Like, it doesn't quite, like, if I wanted to run through the whole world in Bloodborne, it would still not quite as interconnect as well as Dark Souls 1, I don't think. Mm-hmm. It's not really a complaint, it's just, it didn't quite meet my expectations there, although there are a lot of cool little shortcuts. You're like, oh, this is neat. Yeah, there's been, like, maybe a few more moments that I actually would say are a little bit cheap. There are a couple of times I've died where I don't really quite feel like it was my fault, but that's very few and far between. Really, like I said, most of my problem is I think the beckoning system is not very good at this point.
Okay.
I don't like it.
All right, Church and
I
Taboo.
don't use it, so that's not really a problem for me. I actually feel guilty for beating the blood-starved beast by summoning someone in because I didn't summon for anything else. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Okay.
I love summoning.
All right.
I don't dislike it. I like the sense of accomplishment of, just beating.
Right.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's more of kind of a what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, what Mark's
It's more
trying to say is that
overwhelming,
he's better than
like-
all of you.
Well, no, it's just I think it's more of an overwhelming kind of like experience when you see this giant boss and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to try to beat this thing by myself. Like,
Yeah.
it's more intimidating. That's what I'm looking for.
Gotcha.
And I like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was done.
I was gonna say, just tag on that. Like, definitely, I think this time around, even me and John, like, even when we've summoned each other, try to help each other, we've generally just stayed back and just sat there and more watched. Like, it would help a little bit, but we wouldn't. Because I think the one thing, if you like, I enjoy actually summoning random people usually more than I do my friends for the main game, like for the first time. Like once I'm stuck on a boss for like 15 times around, I'm like, all right, dude, someone help me. Let's beat this shit out of this thing. Like, I'm tired of this boss. But usually it's the first time I like playing with a random because it is quiet. You still can hear all the sound effects. You're not hearing someone go, wait, where's some over here? Or just yelling or blabbing. I like being in the environment and hearing the sounds because you just like hear the creepiest people chatting or monsters and stuff. I love the environment in the game, but it's one of those things where I'm excited for even playing through it again, or towards the end. The area that I'm getting now, it's just like it went from hard to insane, and I'm loving it. I'm really glad because like you get so good as a player at the like 50 hour, like I'm at like the 40 hour mark. That I'm like, I was hoping it doesn't get to a point where it's like, oh, this is actually I'm getting really good and I'm just diving through it really quick. No, it's got to a part where I'm like, damn.
Just a quick question, Joel. Did you actually find the boss in the last area that the last area I talked to you at was like Bergenworth or whatever? Did you find the boss for that area?
Yes, I beat that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
thought that was just really
one
cool.
that one
Like, the way you
John
get to
helped
it.
because that one That just it pissed me off for a little while. Like,
That's
I was like,
one that I
alright.
thought was kind of
It
cheap.
looks like it's gonna be so easy.
But I just thought that was a cool way you actually get to it.
Oh
And
yeah, that was awesome. I totally thought John was yanking my chain there, and I was like, and I'm gonna die. But no, it was cool. Shut up,
I
Dave.
definitely feel like Miyazaki's...
Church,
Sorry.
what do you not like about Bloodborne?
I'm going to raise one that I know Taboo isn't going to raise, and I don't think anyone else is going to raise. One of the best things about the game is the range play. I think it's really cool. Like, it's better than the other Dark Souls games, that you can really manipulate the range at which you strike your opponent to win. I think it's super enjoyable. It's like one of the best gameplay elements. So they have this thing in all the Souls games where you can backstep by pressing the roll button just once, and he does his backstep, and then if you do a light attack after that, he rushes in and closes the range, and that frustrates the living shit out of me, because if I have a long-range weapon, and I gain range, and I'm like, cool, well, I'm outside your attacking range, I can hit you, you can't attack me, this is the golden opportunity, and then I attack, and the character rushes forward and closes the range. Why are you doing that? Why can't I toggle these kinds of things on and off? Like, it's a fine thing when you have a short weapon because you can capitalize on the timing. But when you have a long weapon, it just ruins it. Like, it ruins the best part of the fighting.
Get good, scrub.
No, that's bullshit.
No,
I should be able
It's all about knowing your weapon moveset.
No, it's not about weapon movesets. It's about who controls the character. I want to control the character. The character doesn't get to control the character.
I'm not following what you mean though. Like, what's there? So you're saying like if you have like the axe like extended, and you do the same attack, it's I'm not following. I'm not sure what you're complaining about.
Okay, so
like if like the range on the weapons, like some of them are pretty long. When you do a backstep and then immediately you move right back and forward, you're not actually utilizing the range. You're just going back forward right up to the guy.
If you backstep and then immediately do a light attack, the character jumps forward again. He's saying that takes away the benefit of backstepping, and it doesn't let you fully use the weapon's range, which is one of the coolest new additions to the weapons.
Raises the
I
question,
see what
why
you
are you hitting R1 if you're out of range to attack?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not out of range to attack. I'm in range with my weapon to attack, but he steps forward as if I'm carrying a short weapon. And it's frustrating because I'm like, well, I could have hit you from afar safely, but instead got interrupted halfway through my attack because he rushed forward for some reason.
That's an interesting point.
Okay. Don't do that.
But it's a normal. It's like that's half of my attacking options gone after I backstep. It's like, well, I backstep, perfect opportunity. You're weak. I could hit you, but instead I'll just stand here. Why?
So you don't like the ability to just jump back in really quick?
Yeah, I just want to be able to turn it off. If I'm carrying a short weapon like the Kirk hammer in its sword form, I think it's great to be able to backstep and then dive in
I can
after
see
the
it.
attack.
You could almost
but-
have for if you press the back button, hold forward, tap it again, it does the forward. But if you don't do that,
Yep.
fold forward, then okay, I see. So okay, now I know what you mean. I like
and
it
that's
a lot.
really look, I think it's great. I used to use a lot in Dark Souls too, and it's a really nuanced little complaint, but it just drives me nuts because I really like the ranged weapons. What else don't I like about this game? What is that? To be dead honest with you, there isn't an awful lot. You know, Dark Souls 2 really frustrated me sometimes, and I find this game difficult but not super frustrating.
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned that you feel like there's a few cheap moments, but they're few and far between. I actually feel like they've done pretty well to iron most of that out, even down to, like, fall damage is almost insignificant in this game. The amount of times I've fallen from, like, this obscene height and it hasn't, like, done much damage, I thought, great, because they should know. Souls games are not platformers. Stop trying to force a platform game onto me when your game is not a platformer. I'm just gonna fall off shit constantly. And I kind of feel like they're kind of going...
I'm so glad you're pissed at that because I love it. I love those parts where it's you don't have to jump a lot, but I love when there is a part where you're like, how the
Learning
freak...
a lot about Joel's sexual preferences tonight. Beat me, hit me harder.
No,
I love it. It feels so good.
I'll
Scratch me.
Use the whip.
Okay, one of the biggest reasons why I am such a massive fan of these games now is because it reminds me of when I was a kid and I was playing a game and you see here's the correct path to go, right? You're gonna go this way, right? Well, as a kid playing a game and I would only have one game. Let's just say it's Mario 64, right? Like in that game, you can kind of figure out glitches. You could like climb up a little ledge, like, oh, I think I'm actually not supposed to be in this area, and you fall down. Well, I love that actually in the Dark Souls games, their way of getting into an area is very much like that. Like, it looks like, oh, I'll just walk across this log. No, the actual way you're supposed to go is fall off this tiny thing, land on a little something, rotate around, hit some. I like that, because when you figure it out, I don't know, it's fun to me. It's not like, oh, here's a little pathway, gotta go here. Like, I guess I want to like figure it out a little bit on my own. So, and I just love how they're unique like that.
I just don't like when they make you have to jump something. Because it is like, it doesn't have a dedicated jump button. Jumping in the game just is so intermittent and fucked.
Hey, I guess I should tell my Dark Souls 2 story. That'll help with this. So, Mark and Joel laughed at me because I would roll off of things constantly in Dark Souls 2. I would just fall constantly. And how far did I make it through the game? It was my second playthrough, wasn't it, Mark? My second playthrough, like half of the way through, I learned about the jump button. I thought you jump, you rush, and then roll over gaps. And it worked about half the time. So I thought that was the jump button through most of the game. And as soon as I discovered how you could actually jump, the game got so much easier.
Yeah, he hated that portion in the Iron Keep where the turtle guys knock out one of the platforms. And he died so many times, and I was like, geez, this is like, I'm embarrassed for you. Like, why is this happening?
He just thinks if he's not quick enough, that part's impossible.
Yep.
Oh my god.
So Church and I were doing a Twitch series where we would like verse each other in the game, where I would play the character, and the moment I died, I'd have to hand the control over to him. So we would come up with ways to pretty much screw each other over as much as possible so that they would die quicker, so we would get the controller back. And in Dark Souls 2, they added the ability to add the jump button to clicking the right joystick in, as opposed to holding the run button down and then quickly tapping it again, which is what I'm used to from Dark Souls 1. So I liked it that way. Church likes it the other way.
Yeah, just press the run button.
The challenge became like, how can we go into the options and change that setting while the other person's not looking? So when they get the controller back, they try and run and jump off something, but they don't click the joystick in, so they just run straight off the edge and fucking rage.
Our good friend Eggard, he literally got to about 35 hours in the game and figured out you can hold the O button down to run. So he was just rolling through areas to go quick. Are you serious? Like, yeah, he was doing the Ocarina of Time thing. Yeah, he was doing a Zelda roll.
Did you guys ever play World of Warcraft?
No.
No.
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, I've got a quick story actually for anybody listening that did play World of Warcraft. I used to play it a little bit. I got up to like level 50, and I wasn't like playing it an awful lot. I had friends that were playing it like like the guy. Yeah.
Stop trying to couch this in I'm a normal person. You played WoW.
Well, yeah, but then I grew up into a normal person. What's your excuse? So you can spec your character along particular lines. You're a paladin and there's 3 trees, and really that's like the bulk of your skill and the bulk of your ability. So I'm like level 50, I'm trying to find someone to join me in a dungeon, and this guy says, I'll join your party, I'm a paladin. So I said, okay, what kind of paladin? And he's like, I don't know, I use like a warhammer. And I said, no, but like, where did you put your skill points? And he's like, skill points, I don't bother with that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, you're not joining my party. Like, how are you surviving, you idiot?
Taboo, did you have anything else you want to talk about that you did not like about Bloodborne?
So much, but we spent 40 minutes on what we don't like.
I still get to go. Get ready for another 40.
I should just clarify really quick. The cheap moments mostly have been from the camera, and there was just one boss in particular, and it was the one that I was talking about that you said you just beat, Joel. I just really didn't like that one. I thought that was just more annoying than fun. But yeah, no, you're right. Apart from that, I do feel like most of the deaths are my fault. So it's not a major problem. I'm just trying to nitpick. I love this game.
Oh, sure. And if we're going to do that, guess a couple of things. One, Dave, you mentioned that you finally beat the first boss by not locking on. That's actually a really good skill to have in the Souls games. Yeah. If the boss is bigger than your screen, probably better to not lock onto it.
And it made sense when I stepped back and thought about it. I was like, oh, yeah, I think I've been really forcing the camera issue here for no reason.
But my biggest complaints about the game, to be honest, is the controller itself, like the PS4 controller that is thrust upon you by it being an exclusive on PS4. Why?
I think you're an X-bot here.
But the thing that I hate the most is the trigger buttons on the PlayStation controllers. It was horrible on PS3, and they didn't fix it on PS4. Like, you put the controller down, and it's so easy to bump those buttons.
It presses the buttons, yep.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than the last one, but it's still there, yeah.
My R1 and L1 buttons stick.
Sorry?
My R1 and L1 buttons stick. Like, they have to take out the console.
You must really like that controller.
So in Demon Souls on PS3, I had to start a character again twice because I'm like, oh, I'm in the Nexus, I'm in a safe place, I'll just put my controller down and go get a drink, and I'll put it down and it'll bump the button and I'll like heavy attack a friendly, and that was it. Like they attack me every time they see me now, and I had to kill them and start again because they were integral to the game or something.
That is not going to hold up in court.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
All right. Here's what I don't like about Bloodborne.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
The things I don't like, I think, cross the line from gameplay annoyances or preferences to things I think are legitimately bad design, like poorly made decisions by the development team. And the main one for me is the co-op. Now, if the game did not have any co-op whatsoever and it was purely a single-player game, I would have no problem with that. But they put co-op in the game. My expectation is the co-op should function, and in my opinion, it is non-functional. It is possible to beckon people, but they don't do, I don't think, even barely sufficient job of explaining to you how it works. They don't explain to you fully how the currency works that you're going to need for it. They don't tell you when you're trying to beckon someone if it's working or not. I've burned through 8 insight now trying to summon Joel. I've been able to summon him a couple times. The only way to find out if we should theoretically be able to summon each other is to go look it up on the internet and read what other people have figured out. Like, the game does and I feel like that's a big problem in the Souls series, is I feel like, just like in DayZ, you have to rely too much on your web browser to play the game. I feel the same thing about the Souls series, including Bloodborne, in that if you have to reference things outside of the game in order to enjoy it, I feel like that's bad gameplay design. I think the beckoning system is just stupid. If the beckoning's in there, I don't understand how any of their current system makes the game better. Now, if it's supposed to have co-op, why not just let you click on a friend in your friends list and just immediately join their party, hop into the game? If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. And it's not like that's cheating the game, because they make the enemies harder when someone joins you. So you're not getting an unfair leg up. You're just joining someone else and playing with them, and everything scales up proportionately. So they've already made that part difficult, and then they just made the process of actually getting the person in-game maddeningly frustrating. It's not like if it was, you have to beat this super hard boss and then you can summon people, I'd be like, okay, that's a mountain I can climb. But it feels like I'm just alone in the dark with a candle trying to find the magical door to let my friends in. And for me, the thing that sucks about that, and this is where it kind of crosses over into my personal preference, is one of the big reasons I bought a PS4 was to play with friends of mine. Like, to play all the cool co-op and awesome exclusives that would be on the PS4 that I couldn't get on the PC. The biggest reason I bought Bloodborne was to play with everyone else in the group who was buying Bloodborne. It's not like I would probably play it at some point on my own, but I was really looking forward to doing all the co-op I could do with everyone else in the group. And so far, I've only been able to do maybe 10 minutes of it because the co-op system is just broken. In my opinion, it's completely broken. It's not just a difficult thing to do. It's not just a little confusing. It just completely doesn't work. Nice door slam, guys. Oh, all right. Yeah, that's acceptable.
You offended Joel so much he left. The magical friend door that you were talking about.
So to me,
we summoned help and got beer.
I think that the beckoning system is, in my opinion, it's completely broken and unacceptable. It's just bad gameplay design. It's not even a preference thing. It's just a terrible way to do it.
I'll say one thing on that real quick, just for the fact that, I mean, I'd say it is quite broken right now. Although I did play with John just the other day, and every time we tried to summon, like, it worked within 10 seconds.
When it works, it's great, but you still lose.
Still the problem with the inside. I think that's honestly an oversight for them making it. You know, and so I imagine their patches are gonna do some good magic to that, because they fixed a lot in Dark Souls 2 when it comes to summoning and everything. The most frustrating is that I hate that you just don't know what level you can actually summon. I wish there was just an easier way to understand that.
They should just explain the system to you. There's no reason not to explain to you how it works.
I don't think you're ruining the game or doing anything by not at least sharing, going, hey, it has to be literally 10 levels. Just say it instead of like finding it online. I think there's no problem with saying it on there because you're gonna look it up anyways. Because I think it's fine with not being able to summon someone who is level 10 and you're level 100. I think because that's
that would be
really
fine.
unfair.
What if you just had to be within 10 levels of someone and then you could just immediately hop into their party? What would be the difference? Like, there's no reason not to do it that way.
Well, I actually think I might have an answer to that, right?
Okay.
I agree with you guys, actually, that is broken and needs to be different. But I think I understand the rationale. Do you remember the beginning of Dark Souls 2? Where you come along to this gate and you fall down this hole and into this completely different world. And so that old woman says to you...
That's the opening trailer?
Yeah. So this old woman says to you, you must have had a family, but you will forget them. And every time you die, it will drive you crazier and crazier and increase your desire to reach this place. And what they're actually describing there is the immersion of a player playing the game, right? You forget your friends and family. Dying drives you crazy. You are in a different place now to the place you were before you started playing, right? I think they're quite clear and didactic about the fact that they are going to prioritize immersion over everything else. And I think that having a friends list and having those really clear instructions about here's how you play this video game is a bit of an immersion break. I don't think that's an excuse. I think they should do it differently, but I kind of think that's why they do this really scant detail, work it out yourself.
But they have all kinds of immersion breaks. They have immersion breaks for everything else. There's 40-second load screens. There's a complete inventory system you can bring up and thumb through. There's like the stat things. You can read through the 30 different stats that are affecting everything else. Like they break immersion for all kinds of stuff.
True.
But the thing is, it's also the sense of accomplishment, at least that I enjoy the games on, is when I finally go, okay, here's just an example. At my friend Edgar, he's at I haven't gotten to the area yet, I don't know what it's called, but he's at some area that basically this thing called frenzy happens and you can kind of go crazy or something and then it kills you or something, right? He's like, I just keep dying by this, I don't know what's going on. And what I've enjoyed is I was like, Edgar, I think I have like some sort of like potion or something in my inventory. See if you have it. There's something that talks about like keeping you sane or something. See if that works. And then he's like, oh, dude, that worked. Like, for me, that's like, it's kind of like a little bit like playing the game out of the game to me. And I love that. Like, it's one thing of saying, I have no idea what level I can spawn someone. So it's just kind of like, hey, Dave, let's play tonight. Oh, crap, I'm actually a half level off, and I'm stuck in an area we can't play.
And you're trying to figure it out.
That frustrates me. But the, like, items and, like, where to go, what items to use, I love that they don't say anything. I love that even all the trailers, like, they didn't show any of the areas. They showed just Central Yarnum. Like, that's it. But there's a crap ton of areas that I just had no idea. Things you don't need to kill, areas you don't need to go. Like, if I kill a boss early, it looks like I should kill someone. But I'm like, I don't know if I should yet. But where our friend Edgar killed all of these people because he thought they were monsters. This is his first time playing a Dark Souls game.
Oh, no.
And he hated it for like the first 5 hours, but now he is like an absolute fan. Like, loves it.
That's usually what happens.
I don't think it's fair to say that like the loading screen at the inventory system like takes you out of the game. The inventory is your character's inventory. Like that's just part of the world. I know, but if the loading screen can't. I wish there was like a cutscene or like some sort of
elevator ride,
something like that. That would be much better. But
my point is, if bringing up a friends list would be like immersion breaking, it's no different than bringing up an inventory. Like, what's the difference to me?
Here's the thing. Like, I completely understand wanting to tie in the co-op aspect into the lore of the game, but they could like maybe word it in a way like like beckon a companion to your world. Like, just maybe simplify it a little bit, and also don't use insight if no one eventually is summoned in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't let people waste it.
That's led to a situation now where I'm at a point, I don't know when I'm going to be able to afford that bell so I can be summoned into other people's worlds because I have no insight and I don't know when I'm going to get more. Like, it's going to take me a very long time to get more. I would have had enough by now, but I've burned it all just trying to play with my friends, and I wasn't able to 80% of the time. My second thing I don't like is I feel like the game's, by its design, is inherently disrespectful of the player's time and effort.
That's an awesome way to put it.
Let me explain what I mean. Okay, so two of my favorite...
son of a bitch.
Two of my favorite indie games are Hotline Miami and FTL. As it so happens, those two games are brutally difficult. Like, they don't pull any punches. There's nothing to make the games easier for them. I mean, FTL is harder than any of the Souls games in the sense that if you die, you have to restart the game. And granted, the game is a little over an hour long, but you have to restart the whole thing if you die once. And you can die in 20 seconds. Like, the game can go horribly wrong. So I think so it's brutally hard, and I've beaten both of those games, and I loved both of those games. What I liked about them was any of the boss fights or really hard areas were super, super hard, and if you died, they dropped you right back into it and let you try it again. And sometimes I would try an area, in Hotline Miami, there were areas I probably tried upwards of 50 times, and some of those lives were a second and a half long, and I learned nothing. But it said, it's super hard, we're not going to help you out at all, do it as many times as you want till you get it. What I don't like about Bloodborne is, like the other night, I played for probably an hour and a half trying to beat the Bloodstarved Beast. Less than 10 minutes of that was spent fighting the Bloodstarved Beast. The rest of the time was spent grinding the opening areas over and over and over again to get enough blood echoes, or blood vials, that I would have enough health to fight the Bloodstarved Beast. So I'd grind for 30 minutes, get enough, go fight him. Something would go wrong, I would die. And then by the time I've ground enough of them up again that I feel like, okay, I've got enough, I could at least try him a second time. I'm not right back into it. So I've got to remember, okay, here are his moves, here's what's going on. Like, it takes me a couple seconds to get back into the fight. It's not like, I died, all right, let's try it again. It's a bunch of long load screens and a bunch of grinding the same stupid enemies in the same area I fought over and over and over again. And part of it is I'm not inherently good at this game, and I understand that. Like, I just don't have the super twitchy muscle control. I've never had it I didn't have it playing guitar. I've never had it in any games. Like, I can play hard games, but if it requires fast twitchy muscle control, it's always been hard for me. So I completely understand part of it's my fault, but it feels like the game is making the game hard. The frustrating part for me is not trying the boss over and over and over again and dying. I can do that. And it is frustrating at times, but that's not what really gets me. What really gets me is the game goes, oh, you died. Now spend the other 90% of your time just trying to get back to this spot again, just so you can try it again. And to me, I don't see how that makes the game better. I don't feel like I'm improving when I'm just grinding blood vials over and over and over again. It feels like a disrespectful use of my time.
Can I point out,
I agree.
Just on the blood vials thing, just in case you don't know, and I suspect that if you do know, then many of your friends or listeners that are playing the game won't know this. There's a chest in Hunter's Dream which you can leave stuff in. Some people may be aware of that. So the way the game works is you can only keep 20 blood vials on your body at one time as you're walking around.
At first.
But you can deposit up to 99 blood vials in the chest in Hunter's Dream. So if you are in an easy area and you're farming blood vials and you get 20, we may as well go back to Hunter's Dream and deposit 15 of them in a chest and then go farm 15 more. And that way, when you do get to a hard boss, rather than having to go farm those vials again, you can just go, all right, I'll just pump to Hunter's Dream and take a few of those 40 blood vials that I've deposited in the chest.
I think
I ran out of
worth
them when I
noting-
fought Father Gascon. I had a bunch, and then I ran out of all of them when I fought him. I only beat him by cheesing him, and I'm not proud of that.
I think it is worth noting.
I actually found him really easy. Everyone complains about him, but I didn't have a hard time.
Screw
with
you! I want to hear what
Gascon
Mark
at all.
has to say.
Me too.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say really, it's only the first two bosses. Once you get past those, you really don't have to spend all your time on one area. There's a lot open to you after that. So if you're getting tired of one thing, you can go off and do something else, and you'll level up, and you'll find a lot of the stuff that you need. So that you don't necessarily have to fight the blood-starved beast a million times. So you have other stuff you can do at this point.
I understand that, but I want to get I want to beat him. I want to get better at it and try him over and over again and beat him. I just don't. It doesn't seem to me how it makes the game any better to make me grind so much in between attempts. Keep them hard, make them even harder. I don't care. Just let me try it again. Don't penalize me for trying. Penalize me for failing. If I make the game hard. But don't punish me just
the thing
because
is,
I
with some of those
tried.
areas, going back to fight the beast again, it takes me a minute and 20 seconds to get back to it. I don't have to grind my way through it. Now,
And
if
you don't even have to kill
vials,
the enemies along the way.
you don't have vials, that's the
vials,
problem.
it's not getting back that's the problem. It's getting enough
I think it's
stuff
also,
to fight it.
and I think it also comes down to exactly who the game is for too. I'm not. It's there obviously is a lot of different tastes for this kind of game, and I think it goes the same for movies. When you have I think a good movie that's rated a review of 8.5 is generally, I think, better than 100%, because generally it's for a very movies in that genre are more dedicated to a more specific audience, a smaller audience type, and from people who really want like, tight drama, like, like the dialogue is really sharp, witty, like that. They want to go for that. But some people just don't like that. They're going to hate it no matter what. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think when I get into a tough spot like that, Jeremiah, I go, okay, I'm getting destroyed by this guy. I'm gonna go explore some of the areas I had a hard time earlier that I just kind of squeaked my way through. Now I'm leveled up. I'm gonna destroy all of them. See if I missed anything. Collect some stuff. Explore a little bit. Buy some flame stuff for my sword. Get ready. Come back. Plan my attack. Then go and take him out. And then just, I get beat again. Because that's why I got pissed off so much the first time I played Dark Souls. I died by the very first boss. Then I realized all I could do is just run through the freaking door. That's all I had to do is run through the door. But I wasn't looking enough to go, the door is open this entire time. I didn't even have to fight the boss. But I spent like 2 hours on it getting pissed because I just wasn't looking. And so I think finally figuring out what it is okay, I'm not, my character as a player, I'm not ready for this boss yet. I'm getting destroyed. I keep getting hit in the same area. What am I doing wrong? I'm not just jumping away. I need, let me run around him instead of trying to attack the same way. I need to do something different. And so I think if you don't approach the game like that, you are going to have
that's
a much
part of what's
worse
frustrating.
time too.
I would love to try different combat styles, but when I get into a fight, since if it's taking me 45 minutes to get back in, like to be able to get enough stuff, I can get back into it. I don't want to just try some stuff and see what sticks. I want to stick with what works because I don't want to have to do this all again. And that's what's frustrating is if it would just drop me back into it, I would be experimenting so much with different weapons and techniques and stuff. But I feel like I can't do that. I feel like I need to stick to the kind of slow, tired boss design of roll to the left, dodge, 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 one hit, roll, 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 and just hope that he doesn't get the magical one-hit attack on me before I'm able to whittle his health down. I would love to experiment with a bunch of different stuff. It just feels like that's going to take so much longer because what if I try some fancy new move, it doesn't work, I'm dead in 20 seconds, and then I have to do, if I haven't used up my blood vials, at least I can just run back at that point. But it just feels like again, it's disrespectful of my time. Like I want to beat a hard boss. I want to get good enough to beat it. Why are they disincentivizing me to try over and over again? Why are they putting so much grunt work in between
Well, I would feel
tries?
outside of vials, I don't think that's actually a problem. I think the problem is you ran out of vials, you don't have enough. But any boss, when you unlock the areas, you can run within less than a minute. So I think if it comes down to time, that's a problem does not exist unless you're not finding the shortcuts.
No, I think I've got all the
I wouldn't mind
so
if they
far.
just every time you sit at a lamp or something like that, you just get 10 vials and you just go.
Exactly.
I'd be
like the
okay with
Estus
that.
flask.
I like having to actually find vials, but
I don't
either
mind
way,
having
I'd be
to
okay.
find them. I mind. It feels like they're a little too scarce, the system they have now, where I could run through an area and get 10, or I could run through and get 2.
Yeah.
And so I have no way of knowing, except I just have
You
to
need
run
to
through
know the
until I
enemies
get
that
enough.
So basically, I mean, there's a couple where,
Trolls.
if I need them, then I'll just go to the central yarn and bonfire. I'll take on the 2 brick guys down the front left, and then I'll go back and take on, the really hard guy that's sort of hidden behind some, a carriage
wagon
or whatever.
yeah.
Because he usually drops 4. But we'll come back to that. I just want to say, I think we brushed over what Joel was saying earlier, where he was trying to cage, just in case he got bad reviews on his movie. He just wants to be able to have an out so he can say, see, look, it's going to be really specific for some people. They'll really like it.
Yeah, the Godfather or the Goodfellas is rated really high. I don't really like that one that much. It's not,
haven't seen it.
specific.
I understand what Joel's saying. It doesn't need to be for everybody, and I completely I am fully willing to admit, and I'm coming to the realization I don't know if Bloodborne's for me, and I'm going to bring my PlayStation on vacation because everyone else is, because we're going to the beach. So why wouldn't we just bring video game consoles with us? It's still a little bit
freezing
cold.
cold.
I know it's probably already on fire, and the flame kangaroos are probably already eating your countrymen over in Australia.
It's cooling down here.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
That's how the Earth works. See, it's like it's like this blue ball here.
Right, so what does cooling down mean? It means that it's only 98 degrees and only your porch is on fire, or...
Dude, 98 degrees is obscenely hot, but you guys use Fahrenheit, so...
It's also a great band.
I don't know it. It's like Shawshank Redemption. It's probably great. Never heard of it.
No, 98 Degrees was like NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys. They were in the early 2000s. They were a men's singing group
Oh, I see.
that wore polyester clothing.
See, that's the
bright
joke
colors.
that got an 8.5, not a 100.
So what's going to happen is...
I'm fully willing to admit that the game may not be for me, but the things I don't like about it, I feel like I have a hard time when someone says, oh, well, it's supposed to be like that. I haven't heard good reasons why some of those things don't make why do they make the game better? And I'm not hearing good reasons for why is the game better.
Yeah.
It's fine if you like it that way, and maybe it's just I don't like it that way. But I think some of these things are actual bad gameplay decisions that do not add to the game at all.
I agree.
And I don't understand why they're there.
Well, what do you think about this? Okay, think about this for Skyrim. Something I wish they did in Skyrim was instead of having every area you unlock be a travel area,
Only have hubs.
I wish there was just hubs. Yeah. And the reason why what's frustrating is because they had it, I did use it and I liked it, but I found that towards the end of the game, when you're like at 120 hours, you've done almost every quest. I'm like, there's a lot of just loading. All you're doing is loading in a door, loading here, going over here.
If you play on an Xbox 360, there is. If you play on the PC, it's.
Shut up. Anyway, it's not even that. I had it on PC too. It's not that short. But anyways, I'm just saying, like, I when you're only given one choice to like have to, journey your way through there. I like that. I like that. Like when I'm given another choice, I kind of like, I might as well go do that. But I kind of like enjoyed not having to do it. But since they gave it to me, I'm like, I'm not gonna not use it. I think it's hard for me to go, oh, I'm just gonna commit to only walking. But when they don't give it to you, I enjoy that. So I do like the limited amount because when you finally do beat the boss, you're like, yes, I got through this whole area. I took my time. I figured it out. I didn't just like, I don't know. I just didn't hack my way through. I did it. Like I'm a skillful player. I made it. And
I was saying to Joel and Jeremiah the other night, I actually suffer terribly from too good to use syndrome, and that extends to blood vials. So my play style is when I get to a boss, if I'm not doing awesome, I won't use the blood vials. Like I just no, you have to earn it. You earn those blood vials. Like you play better. When I get to a boss, generally I die without using any vials, maybe anywhere between 5 and 10 times while I figure it out. And once I know what I'm doing and I feel like I'm doing good, and I'm like, okay, like now I can actually use them and really give this a real go. And that's how I like to play. And I realize that's not, for everyone. I
started doing that now after you told me that. That was a good idea.
It's a good strategy, actually, Mark. Watching you beat the final boss the other night has kind of made me want to try it again. Not the final boss, because I'm about 8 years away from that, but try the one-starved beast again, because you're right, like what Mark was doing, like there'd be times where I'd be like, why aren't you healing? I was share playing with him, watching over the PSN network, and he was like just skipping away with like a quarter health, running back into attack the final boss of the game, and I was like, I would be just like chucking blood vials at my face, like take it all.
I'll even admit,
Heal me.
Where's the gift of that? Germ going, take it all!
give me that blood-starved beast. Fucked up.
Support us on Patreon. It makes the show better.
No, but I'll even admit, like, when you were watching me, I was using way more than I normally would have.
Trying to show off for me.
No, like, I was trying not to waste your time as much, but I also figured, like, I had a full stock, and it was the final boss, and, I figured I'd probably have enough. But, yeah, I'm usually even more conservative than that with them. And, that's not for everyone. Like, some people probably would have beaten a lot of bosses way earlier than I did by using more.
You beat the game in a week. Most people didn't beat anything earlier than you did, Mark. This is also the man that watched all of Sons of Anarchy in 1 week.
Wow.
When Mark
I
puts his
think
mind
that's
to a
quite a
task,
sensible way
as
to
long
do
as
it.
it's a video as long as it's a video game or a movie or TV series, Mark always wins.
When I commit to turning off my brain, I succeed.
Can we transition to the fun parts now?
Yes, I was about to say,
the good parts.
I've been very critical of this game, but we all have lots of good things to say about it, me included. Can I go first on saying good things? Because I've been one of the most critical opponents of the game, at least in this group. I feel like I need to be fair. Sure. I think Bloodborne's combat beats the pants off of Dark Souls 2 because it doesn't feel like I'm a fat dude wearing like a bunch of floaties and like a swimsuit thing, bumping off walls and running around with my feet in cement blocks all the time. Like Bloodborne's actually, it's fast. I like that they pruned the weapons down because in Dark Souls 2, the first weapon I got in the game, I call it the Whomper. It's a big stick with some stuff on it. I kept that the entire game because I never found anything that was better unless I sunk way too much money into it trying to level it up. So I kept one thing and then found 75 other useless swords throughout the rest of the game because the loot system was stupid. I thought like it just gave you dumb crap that there was no way you were going to need.
Okay, I gotta say, he never found any good items. Like we ran through so much though. So I understand this is the second.
But I killed everyone in there.
But I take
like
his point,
he
though.
missed a crap load of stuff.
But in Bloodborne, I like that they just stripped back the number of weapons so far, at least. But they're all unique and good. The whip is awesome. I am loving the whip. I was playing with the sawtooth.
I'm loving the
blade
whip.
thing.
Jeremiah 2015.
I was playing with the saw.
the whip.
I was playing with the saw blade for like the first 3 or 4 hours, and then I randomly decided to try the whip because it looked cool. And then after about 20 minutes of trying the whip, I was like, "Oh, this is so different. This is amazing. I'm never going back."
And it's the range, isn't it? It's the range on that weapon.
And it's just being able to keep enemies at range. I can dodge back, whip them, stun them, dodge back again, whip them, and just keep hold them at range and whittle them down. And I really, really like that. None of those rules apply to bosses.
Apart from when you dodge back and then jump forward.
Yeah, but I think the combat is amazingly excellent. I think the graphics are fantastic. This is one of the first next-gen games I've seen where I can look at it and go, okay, you definitely could not make that game like that on the PS3. Now, the frame rate would have been equally as bad on the PS3. Digital Foundry released their analysis today, and the game was dropping down to 18 FPS at times during combat, which is really when you
16
want...
was the lowest.
16? That's really when you want the frame rate to be high, is when you're furiously dodging away from people and trying not to die. So the game has frame rate issues, even though it's got, like... The sections are pretty closed in. They really did a lot of really smart stuff to make the graphics work because the system is not powerful enough for everything they're trying to pull off, but they did such an awesome job working on it. Like the blood effects, the cloak effects, the fact that your cloak doesn't appear to clip through absolutely everything in the game like most games with cloaks do. There's like lots of cool stuff. I think there's the graphics, the lighting, the art style in general is fantastic, and it's truly a game that you wouldn't have seen on any other console platform up until now. So I think they did a fantastic job with that. And I do like that they went back to the Dark Souls 1 style of bosses. Like they're more unique and nasty looking. And I really like that. I haven't played much Dark Souls 1. I've just watched other people play and heard people talk about it. And it seems like there was way too many humanoid bosses in Dark Souls 2, which Dark Souls 2 was rated T, wasn't it?
Was it? I'm not sure.
The re-releases.
There's no blood, and the bodies disappear immediately, and all the enemies are kind of safe looking. I think it is T. I really like the blood-starved beast. It's like flaps of wet, rotting meat just hanging off of it, swinging back and forth. Like it's sick, and I love it. Like that looks awesome, and the amount of blood we hit things, it's so cool.
I can tell you right now.
Is there cool stuff to come?
There are some bosses coming up that would make David Cronenberg throw up.
I don't know who that is.
Me either.
Okay, well,
Oh man,
he just forget it. One of your listeners will love me.
Well, who is? You can tell us.
No, he directed the remake of The Fly. He does a lot of movies that are like body horror, where people will just eventually rot and disgusting things will come out of their body and they just mutate. And there's a lot of disgusting visuals in his movies.
Cool.
He's notorious for that.
Yeah.
can't wait.
But that's what I really like about Bloodborne.
Beat me, Bloodborne, beat me.
All right. Let's just give Joel a moment here and we'll move on.
All right, so Joel, you want to go next?
What a great opening.
I can't wait. Man, it really has blown me away at every turn, I think.
Has it borne you away?
Shut up,
No,
Mark.
like I honestly can say that Dark Souls 1 is up right up there between Half-Life 2 and Dark Souls and Fallout 3 are like all-time favorite games. And like this, I'll be a fan of this series of games for life now. Like there's no other games that compare anymore. It's hard for me to play.
I really want to hear them botch it 10 years down the line. You eat those words.
Well,
I want them to pull a Battlefield.
I'm just saying these games.
I don't want to see it go
games
the path of COD. I do feel that somehow this game is a bit rushed, and I don't want to see them start churning them out every year and just be like, here's the next Souls game.
Which I feel they might be under pressure to do because this game's going to sell really well. Not because it's so amazing, it's very good, but because there's not a whole lot else coming out for the PlayStation 4 right now. And this game is going to move units, and people are going to play a lot of this game. And I hope that doesn't skew them to go, all right, B team, let's get a Bloodborne 2 out by like next November or something.
I mean, just as an example, the completely safe and vanilla and rather uninteresting Battlefield Hardline is already outselling Bloodborne. Like, that's how bad it is.
Wow.
It looks so shit, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, it does.
it's not doing great sales wise. I mean, it's doing well, but just hardline selling copies because it's just safe.
Yeah, because Call of Duty and games like that.
So continue, Joel.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just I mean, Dark Souls 1 just with the level design and just the surprises I got in. Like I mean that game blew my mind just going, "Oh wait, you came up an elevator here I am. Oh man, that's so amazing." Just the sense of discovery was so awesome. And I love the fact that you could play the game and you could miss like 15 hours of the game. Like, and I just played it I was playing it the other day on PC and I was like, holy crap, there's another area. And so coming to Bloodborne, I was a little worried because I mean, like, there was nothing that was shown from the game. And I had a lot of faith in Miyazaki that the game would have a lot more, and he just doesn't want to show it. And I read an article about how he developed original Demon Souls and stuff like that. I just love it. He's like, you know what, screw it. I'm not showing you anything. Just jump in the game, like, be surprised, you know? And holy crap, I'm surprised. There's just, I get to an area thinking, oh, maybe, okay, this area is really cool. The next area, you're just like, what in the freaking world? This is awesome. Like, the graphics just get better and better as you play, and it's awesome. Just, I think the storyline's really interesting. There's been a lot of kind of mind-blowing moments so far that I'm like, what in the F is going on?
The story is really interesting?
Yeah, well, you have to read things and, you know, talk with characters.
On a side note, Joel, if I could jump in for a second, I love games that make you work for the story. One of my all-time favorite single-player games was the first Stalker, where you're thrown into the game with this tiny little cutscene, and you have to like talk to every character with like huge amounts of text dialogue, like old school, to get the story, to figure things out. You can miss entire sections of the game. I love having to really fight for the story, and that's not for everybody, but I do love that for sure.
Yeah, and by story, I don't know everything that's going on. Like I'm not seeing everything, but between me, John, Eggard, and Mark playing all at the same time, some of us have gotten different things. Apparently the game has several different endings. Like Dark Souls had a couple different endings. Dark Souls 2 had a couple different endings, I think. So like certain characters you can help, certain characters you can help and just miss. So you'll miss some storylines, but it's fun seeing, oh, I helped this person bring this back to this one area. I'm like, I went and got him. And there's one area, guys, that like it blew my mind where you like came out. Like you know, it was the shortcut or just like where it connected with the world. I was like, are you kidding me? This is where I'm at? Whoa! Like it's really cool.
Shortcut.
Can you answer for me then? So there's the tombstones in Hunter's Dream. Like, is it like the Nexus in Demon Souls where they just drop you in completely distinct and like separate world areas that aren't connected?
Not really. No. Every area connects so far to the other.
Oh, wow.
There's a few. I won't say some. I won't say. But there's some that you don't necessarily connect via walking, but
sure.
But almost every single area you get to from bosses into the next area, you actually like physically climb and walk there. It's just that like those headstones kind of give you like all the shortcuts or like the warp zones to that kind of area. So and I haven't played the whole game either, so Mark probably know more. But am I saying correct, Mark? Like there's a couple areas you just straight warp into a specific area, but most you can get from Central Yarnum to really the freak far out.
Okay, so, well that completely changes how I feel about the game.
Yeah. Now the game is not exactly like Dark Souls 1 where, I mean, it has the hub where everything kind of like spills out around it. This one almost feels a little bit like starts here and it goes out like this. So it's not like you're in the center going out here and here, although there's some areas that go like that, but it's massive. There's areas that are just like huge.
Can I just clarify that? So it goes like this, and then like that, and then across that way?
Yeah. Exactly.
Cool. Okay, now I understand. See, I told you.
Joel goes like this.
Church and Taboo, what do you guys like about the game? What's the game doing right?
What's been said, really, I think, is my opinion of it. Like, it's got an immersive atmosphere that just looks really awesome. The graphics are amazing. The combat is just spectacular. I really like the variants of the everyday enemies. I mean, a lot of them are kind of bipedal. So far, it's kind of different shapes of humanoid people plus dogs. But and those werewolf-type guys, I really, really like the variation of the enemies. I just really enjoy playing it, and I don't have that frustration that I had with Dark Souls 2, where I'm kind of like, why did I die there? And I think it's kind of what you're talking about, Germ, where it's like, I am agile and fast enough that if everything's going to hell, I just leave and start again. I just back right out, and I just reassess the situation, regroup and attack again. And in Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls, and even Demon Souls, I think, there were so many times where I'm like, I gotta get out of here, I'm gonna die. And then I'm like, well, of course you died, you clown. Why were you standing there? Like a blind man saw that coming. Like, why don't you move? But in Bloodborne, I can bugger off and start again, and it's wonderful to be able to move like that. So I think that's my big thing. That's why, like, I was playing the game for half an hour, and I just thought this is just 1,000 times better than Dark Souls 2 because I can actually control the character.
Fair enough. Yeah.
To be fair, Jeremiah didn't know anything about the equip load until like 20 hours into Dark Souls 2, so...
I also made it to Drang Lake Castle on my second playthrough before I figured out that I've been reading shield stats wrong the whole time, and I've been upgrading the attack of my shield and had never had a shield that blocked all damage. So as soon as I got a shield that blocked all damage, I was like, bring it, guys. I'm just going to, it felt like I was breaking the enemies on the prow of my shield. Yeah, it got much easier when I got a shield that worked correctly, because I had been, when you click on the thing and go to help, I've been misreading where the help icons, because there's so many different things you have to read on the shields.
Yeah,
and early on, I had just assumed it was pointing to a certain thing. And the problem was, once I assumed that, I read it that way from then on and was upgrading the attack of my shields, which I never attacked anyone with a shield. So, I'll fully admit, I'm not great at these games.
Or reading, apparently.
But isn't it more impressive that I made it 2/3 of the way through Dark Souls 2 the first time, not being able to jump or having a shield that worked properly?
Yeah, I gotta say, that is skill. Like, my God.
It's not skill, it's a lot of Mark's patience.
Which is the point I try
management skills.
Yeah, it's what I try to tell people. Like, these games aren't for everyone, but if you're interested, try to keep somebody nearby that can hold your hand, at least for the first few hours. And, like, just as we've all pointed out, like, it doesn't spell anything out for you. If you can just have, like, that one friend that can go, oh yeah, sure, that's what this is what you should do here, you know, do this, just to get you through those first few hours and, like, sink your teeth into it, and then you can
friends with benefits.
Yeah.
My hope through all this whole time, because I'm such a convert of this game now, is to get Jeremiah into the mindset that I finally got to, that I've really clicked and I've loved it. And so I've been trying really hard.
Yeah, but how many hours did I play Dark Souls 2?
I know.
Hold on,
I know,
actually, I can tell you. Give me a second.
You played quite a lot. I still feel like he hasn't
shake.
gotten into the mindset of the games.
I've played 49 hours. How long does it take to get into the mindset?
Now I've realized that I think it's more of just who you are in general. But it's just that in that game, your game style.
Your character is just flawed, basically.
Like, I'm not worried when it comes to Dave playing this game that he's gonna miss out on story items or like looking at an item in the
vacuum
inventory
it
and reading
all
everything. He'll read everything, so I'm not worried. But I would be worried that you would never check any of your items to go, oh, that's what I use this for. Like, so. Yeah. Not that I don't think you suck at games. I still
no, Joel. It's the exact same thing. It's to validate what you're saying. I don't want to play Arma with you ever again.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't like playing games with you, but I know Arma is just like, you don't want to sit there and listen to a 20-minute briefing. You don't want to perfectly spec your loadout. You don't want to listen to whoever's in charge as they carefully lay out a plan. And you don't want to take 30 minutes slowly getting there into position.
Yeah.
You want to fight people. And so that's the main difference is Arma to us, it feels like playing with an idiot child, but you feel the same way when you're trying to walk me through Dark Souls. And I'm like, but it's killing me all the time. And I'm out of my Estus. And why is this stupid thing here? And then when we're playing Arma and you're like, hey guys, so we're killing all the cops, right? And everyone's like, no.
My absolute favorite line from Arma is during the pre-mission briefing when Joel just wanted to start and he was insisting that we didn't need any medics. He's like, we never use the medics. Like, wait, what?
See, the reason why I don't enjoy that, and I think a little bit of extra hatred on me on this is that because I've waited hours and hours playing DayZ. So you can't say that I don't enjoy. I just want to get into the action. I played a crap load of DayZ when it first came out, waiting long periods of time because the game was really worth it. The reason I don't enjoy Arma 3 is because the waiting to fighting the enemies is extremely boring because it's not very good.
Again, we feel like
so I like to start, but I'm like, why am I playing 2 hours? Well, no, I played many hours of the game, and I just think the actual like skill of the game and like how hard it is super easy. Like, it's just like. I think the game is very, very easy.
Joel ought to meet some anti-air defenses. No, Joel, again, for us, and that feels like it just hasn't clicked for you, where like when you're under heavy fire from multiple positions in Arma and like you're holed up in a house and you don't know where the enemy is, to me, that's one of the most intense, stressful things I've ever been in a video game. Like in Call of Duty, you can be like parachuting into a nuclear bomb explosion, like chucking knives in people's faces. And that's like, whatever, that's Call of Duty. In Arma, 3 people are shooting at you and it's way more intense, but that hasn't clicked for you yet.
What kicks me out is that the enemies look retarded as they're fighting. Like it's like they either just like peek around a corner and shoot your head and you die. But like in DayZ, the zombies were really awesome when it first came out, and it was really terrifying. Those are some of the best gaming.
I think there's some rose-colored glasses there on how awesome the zombies were.
No, when it first came out, like as glitchy as they were, it was still awesome. You cannot deny it was one of the best gaming experiences when it first came out.
Because we had never experienced it before.
Exactly.
So we
the overarching experience was.
Can we just start calling it DayZ, please?
Yeah, DayZ, guys.
It's just
seriously, we've had this conversation. DayZ. We're not
the
running through a
flower
field of
simulator, guys. What are you
daisies.
talking about?
See, I'm not an arcade person, but I just think like when you go from Last of Us and the animations of people fighting you and like tactically going to Arma 3 where they like swivel really slow and they do these weird turns. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like I don't know. Like when you shoot them, they don't do a cool like. I don't know, they don't have an awesome ragdoll or feel like you actually shot them.
Not to get stuck on Arma 3 again, but once again, I just think you're missing the forest for the trees. Like, it's not about the individual guy who might turn a little wonky occasionally. It's about the fact that you're trying to get a shot out of a window at him while you're calling in close air support from a helicopter flown by one of your teammates. There's someone, like, pulling a transport chopper with your reinforcements. It's, like, actually your guys
I haven't played American Mission
behind
yet,
you.
And
you're like doing all that on a map that's bigger than Skyrim that you can traverse at any point with 0 loading screens.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's pretty cool. Anyway, we're not talking about Arma.
It's the sandbox.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to take a leaf out of Germ's book and point out a segue, but I hear that we had DayZ news if somebody wants to jump in while we're on the topic.
Want to take a quick breather for some DayZ news, then we'll jump back into Bloodborne.
It is now
Wipe the blood
time
off.
for DayZ with DayZ, the part of the podcast where I occasionally, every 3 to 4 months, update you guys.
They don't know. Okay, let me tell them about the Kickstarter. So, guys, we've come up with this idea. Joel doesn't have time to do it
This
yet.
is like a year and a half ago
No,
now.
I have time. I've asked Dave many times, and he just still hasn't committed yet.
You guys
Is it
fight
to
it
get
out.
us a plane ticket to your beach party? Because I'm so in.
Podcast episode 200. We'll do it for episode 200. We're on episode 89. Hang in there. But no. About over a year ago, it randomly came up during a podcast, and Dave agreed, and more importantly, his wife agreed, sitting in the room with him, probably agreed too quickly. If we could raise $25,000 on Kickstarter, Dave will legally change his legal name to Dave Z for 5 years.
Was it 5 years? I thought it was 2.5 years.
No, it's 5 years. Driver's license, social security card.
I'm doing some freelance work now. The price might have gone up.
25 grand to change
More
his name.
importantly, why 5 years? Why not keep that shit for life? Like herpes. That's an amazing name.
Originally, one of our stretch goals was going to be flying him to get a hug from Dean Hall. But Dean Hall doesn't work at Bohemia anymore. We can still fly into New Zealand. I don't know.
We'll fly you
Come
to
on,
his
visit
house.
you guys.
can
Just
knock on
hop
the
over
door.
real quick and just for a quick hug. Jeremiah, I just realized too, this year I have my Form 4 going into the ATF for my suppressor. Can you imagine calling the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and being like, yeah, I need to like modify this 8-month paper trail. Had a legal name change. It's Dave Z now.
That's probably not the weirdest thing
like
heard,
my
honestly.
rapping career is taking off or something.
Or you want that suppressor because you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse. Pretty hardcore.
Oh man.
Wait,
So
would
yeah,
your wife change her name to Jenny Z or whatever would that change
Jesse
as
Z.
Jess Z.
Jesse. Ooh.
That's perfect.
Now,
Both
she's
change your names for
supportive.
50 grand.
She's supportive, but she's not a moron. So
I don't think that
Dave would
like
be a
the
little
limit.
bit proud. She would not. She would
if
like the
she
money.
got 25 grand and Dave got 25 grand, I think she would.
Well, yeah, that's true. Pride can be bought. But anyway, DayZ news. DayZ news. We've already been podcasting for an hour and a half. We should probably do. We're going to do DayZ news. We're taking a what's it called? An intermission right now. We have DayZ. We have a little bit of mail, and we have a Singularity shame segment, and then we're going to hop back into Bloodborne to wrap this thing up. So, Dave, go ahead.
And I'll start things off by dropping things into the chat here, just a link so you guys have some pretty images to look at.
Wait, I thought we disabled links in chat.
I'm a moderator, so I have all the power.
All right.
Well, I'm not sitting at my computer, so I can't see it.
Shut up, Mark. Fix your fan, and then you can be a
It's like
real...
the first time he's talked in a half an hour. You tell him to shut up.
Oh no!
I'll tell him to shut up. I've known him for like 20 years.
Exactly.
That's how I
If he
feel
left
like
by
my
now,
cats feel,
He's
right?
not leaving.
Like we're these two cats, right? And this is a bit of a segue, but I'll be quick. So my partner and I are just chatting away all day, and the cat goes, meow, and I go, shut up, cat. And the cat must be looking at us like, but you never shut the hell up. What the hell is this? I say one thing, one time. It's like, shut up.
Once.
I'm just waiting for
that
the
privilege.
podcast next week when you bring all your like computers back from being at the beach and all your fans sound like shit because you got sand through the whole thing as well. Yeah, then Mark will be laughing.
I'm not bringing my computer to the beach. I'm bringing my PlayStation 4, and if it breaks, I'm going to chuck it in the ocean and leave. All right. Anyway, DayZ news.
On a side note, now I have to segue just once more. When I ordered Joel our PlayStation, and I told my wife about it, a few days later, I was like making coffee in the kitchen, and she asked from the couch randomly, "So when does the Potato Station 4 get here?" And like I'm like pouring coffee. I was like, wait, what did you call it? Like, did you call it the Potato Station 4? I'm like, I'm so proud. I taught you well. She just dropped, like, I did like a literal double take. It was amazing. All right. Focusing on DayZ just briefly, I'm going to do just an overview because I feel like I might actually record a quick video about this tonight. The quarterly 0.55 patch is out. Quarter 1 is over for DayZ, and a couple of these major systems actually were not delayed and are now in the game. I'll focus on the two most exciting ones. First of all, the central loot economy. Traditionally, both in the DayZ mod and the actual game, you can kind of predict the loot. Like a certain kind of red house, like always has a possibility, like 1% of a gun in the corner. We had there's like the food house, the one that has like the blue trim that always has tons of cans of food. All that's gone. They can now actually control loot spawn not by individual building asset, but by region. So houses near a military base might have military uniforms that spawn inside of it and stuff like that. So it's no more of like predicting your loot spawns. This is going to completely change how looting works. You actually have to check everything. Loot is more spread out, and it's a lot more fun to loot again. Joel, I think you're going to enjoy it next time you play, next year. Yeah. actually looting things without being able to predict it as easily. And as a side effect of this central loot economy, what really has me excited is that persistence is now 100% enabled across all servers permanently. So we're going to once again see player tent cities out in the woods. You're going to have player camps and stuff that you actually will run into because up to this point, you're going to have, up until 0.55, every week there was a wipe of the database basically. So all the cool player tents and camps and stuff like that, either players weren't bothering because you'd have to just lose it in a week, or you have to like pick up your tent and like everyone's like carrying all the stuff inside of it like in their backpacks, and you have to set up your camp again after the wipe. Super annoying, but persistence is now here to stay, and that's one of the big pillars of the mod features that we now finally have in standalone. And the second big feature of 0.55 is the new zombie AI system. The stealth mechanics are back. You can now creep up on zombies or around them to avoid them, which is a good idea because they're now a lot more difficult. They have new animations outside of the classic mod, like double arm stiff, like, meh, like how is that making you bleed? I don't understand how that ever worked. It's like they're like doing like a pallet loader thing. I don't know what that was. Their attacks actually push you around now, and they're not totally synced up yet. It's just the first stage of the new animations, but they are getting new animations to go with the new AI. So stealth is back and persistence is back, two big pillars of these new modules. And we also have word of the new renderer, which will get our frame rates out of the teens. The exciting news for that is that while it's unfortunately delayed, it was due on experimental in late March. It's now scheduled for late May for experimental, sometime early June for stable. But the team decided to not spend all the effort to get the renderer up to DirectX 9. That's really old tech. They're going right for DirectX 11, and that'll bring us to an easier path to upgrade it to DirectX 12 in the future.
So Windows XP is not supported anymore, which it shouldn't be, because you shouldn't be using Windows XP anymore because it's 14 years old and is no longer patched against security holes. Upgrade.
So actually, that's a good point. I wanted to ask you guys about that, get a general consensus opinion. So obviously going to DirectX 11 is a good for the game's future. It's a good pipeline to DX12. The game's going to look better. It's going to run better. But the game isn't early access. how do you guys think that users who are on XP who have bought this early access game that's now changing its course of development, how would that make you guys feel? I'm just really curious. Is the upgrade worth it?
Windows XP has always been below the minimum requirements for DayZ, so if someone was able to run it, they were doing it against the minimum requirements. So even if they could get it to work, they can't complain. Well, now you're not supporting it anymore. They never officially supported it. You were just able to play it.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
And some people aren't going to like that, I'm sure. But again, if you're still using XP, you got to upgrade at some point. Like, as much as people complain about Windows 8, Windows 8 will beat the pants off of XP. Like, please try.
And I think that's the
so much
point.
better.
People that are still on XP will prefer to stay on DirectX 9 because they can't count to 11.
Yeah, that's the summary of the new patch. A couple of the big pillars of the new engine showing up. New AI for zombies and new loot, which they had me at loot. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. It's now time for the Singularity Shame segment, a part of the podcast we're named after Singularity 80 in chat, where we come up with someone who needs to be smacked in the face a little bit, and we do that verbally on the podcast. This week's is a little too easy, but we're still going to do it. This is a news story that just popped up today, and it concerns Apple, which is one of my favorite things to rag on. But early benchmarks have come out for this beautiful new MacBook Air.
Is that what we're going to do this week, Jeremiah? We're going to fight?
No. Joel and I already talked about this earlier today, and Joel agrees with me on this point. The beautiful new MacBook Air, which Apple made the innovative decision to remove most of the connectivity by giving you one port, which is okay because you can expand it with an adapter, which will give you all the other ports back. So they've made a computer that really, if you look at an exploded teardown of all the parts, it's really about 5% computer and 90% battery and 5% other parts.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, though.
It's basically an iPad with a keyboard when it comes to what guts are actually in it. But its early benchmark scores are fantastically disappointing. It is benchmarking slower than the 2011 MacBook Air. Slower than on par or slower, depending on the benchmark, than the 2011 MacBook Air, which, if you're curious, is currently selling refurbished for $650. So for double the speed, you can get something that's about 15-20% thinner, has better battery life, and has most of the ports removed. And that is slower. Like, that is so dumb. Now, I understand the reasons why they have the slow processor is that it sips power. The battery life will last for 12, 13 hours, which is really nice. And for someone who's buying what's basically a Chromebook that runs OS X, the long battery life and being super light and stuff is nice. But I feel like I ought to mention there are PC laptops that are this thin or thinner. Asus and Dell both have laptops this size that still have all the ports. They were still somehow able to make that work. Screens that are just as nice and aren't as slow. Now, the Dell is faster. The Asus has the same version of this processor that the MacBook Air has, and people who have had the Asus for a couple months say the processor is incredibly slow. Like, it's basically is a Chromebook. It's good for surfing the web, watching Netflix, typing up Word documents, and that's basically it. And if that's all you want, that's fine. But if I'm going to drop $1,200 on a computer,
I think if they came out and said $900, it would have been. Oh, that's actually pretty good.
Make it a 1/4 inch thicker. Make it 1/2 pound heavier. Make it actually able to do stuff. Like, my wife has a MacBook Pro.
Or just keep it light as it is, but you just keep the price down.
It didn't need to get thinner. Yeah. No one was holding off on that MacBook Air purchase because it was too thick and too heavy.
Saying $1,200 makes it like, to me, when I first saw it, I was like, $1,200. Okay, this is replacing the MacBook Air. This is going to be better than the MacBook Air, right?
You mean the MacBook Pro?
So no, MacBook Air. Like, I thought.
This is replacing the Mac. It is the new MacBook Air.
I don't think so. No, I don't.
It's called the MacBook Air.
No, it's called the MacBook. That's
okay.
all it's called. So I thought they were replacing the MacBook Air, but I'm like, okay, it's slower than the MacBook Air. So really, all it has is just the one screen has less ports than my MacBook Air. Like, and then it's more expensive. If they came out and said, yeah, it was $800, $900, the super cheap, light, extremely light, laptop, and it's just functional for doing, daily stuff, that would have been pretty awesome. So I'm curious to know what they're going to do with the MacBook Air, but I think by having such a high price line, it feels like it should be better. And I think really they needed to market that it was here replacing, because the MacBook is lower than the MacBook Air, like in specs.
But if it's lower in specs, it should be lower in price by a lot.
Exactly. And I think it's really expensive for. I mean, it's an awesome case. I think it's like masterfully designed. It just sucks that you have one missing port. It's slower. I guess that about it. Yeah, and
You
then
don't
it
have one
costs so
missing
much.
port. You have all the missing ports except
My
for
MacBook
like
Air
the
only has
power
2 ports.
plug.
My MacBook Air only has 2 ports.
It doesn't have an
one's
SD slot.
Oh, you're right. It does. It does have an
Does it have
SD slot,
Ethernet?
so- Nope. Who uses Ethernet on their laptops all the time? Well, that's
I
because
like
you have a
speed.
really ancient
Well, that's because
laptop.
you don't count.
No, you have you do have an ancient
you know
laptop.
next
You
year
don't need
Apple's
to.
going to come out with the MacBook version 2 that's going to have like 2 USB Type-C connectors, and the whole internet's just going to bow down like only Apple could pull this off, putting multiple ports.
What a
inside
wonderful
laptop.
idea.
And that's it. That's the sad part. Apple have their cult following, and they've got the price like high enough that people are still going to go, oh, this must be great. We're going to buy it in millions.
My
anyway.
last bit I want to
Dave.
brag on them for this is my wife has a MacBook Pro. It's a 2013 model MacBook Pro that her work got her for working there. And it's got the 500 gig SSD and the Retina screen. Like, it's got all the features. And I've picked it up. It's super thin and very light. Like, granted, it's a $2,500 laptop, but I wouldn't look at that and go, yeah, make this thinner and lighter, and then I'll use it. Like, it's super thin and super light,
Yeah,
which has its disadvantages.
The MacBook Pro. Did she have the 13-inch? You said.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny going from that to the MacBook Air. I'm like, holy crap, it's really heavy. Well, I got one for work for free, but I just don't like it at all. Like, I just really don't. Actually, sorry, I've got the 15-inch. My bad.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
the 13-inch is much lighter,
Well,
but man,
I
it's
walked
still
by it
so
the other
heavy.
day, and she was like watching a video online, and I walked by and had to turn and look. I was like, "What's that loud rushing air noise?" Her MacBook was hot to the touch on the underside and just vomiting air out the tiny little vents, watching a video in a web browser. And this is the MacBook Pro. And I'm sorry, that's just a little bit pathetic. Like, it already is like, HTML5 video. Can't hold it. She's getting too hot, Captain. But anyway, that is the Singularity Shame segment. Our last thing before we go back to Bloodborne is mail time.
Mail time.
You can write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show, just like Cyberwatt did. Cyberwatt wrote in and said, I am currently in the process of upgrading my soon-to-be 5-year-old computer. I'm upgrading especially my GPU and CPU. I have an idea on what to upgrade my CPU to, but I'm a bit undecided what GPU I should upgrade to. As of writing this, Amazon and Newegg currently have the 4GB version of the GTX 960 for $240. Is the 4GB version worth it, or should I save the $40 and go with the 2GB version? I'm trying to save as much as possible, but also hoping this card will last me at least a couple of years. I will not be playing anything higher than 1080p, because that would just be a money sink for me. Will the 960 have a 3GB problem like the 970 with the memory? I haven't heard anything, but I'm concerned with NVIDIA screwing with it. I want to be able to play most or all current games at 1080p, very high or max settings at 60 FPS, and any upcoming games like The Witcher 3 at 1080p, 30 FPS, 60 if possible. If you guys have any suggestions on what to upgrade to, not limited to just NVIDIA, so I can hear Jeremiah voice his thoughts on AMD, that would be great. His current specs are, he has a i5 2500K at 3.3 gigahertz, not overclocked. He has a GTX 560. He has 8 gigs of RAM and an EVGA 500 watt power supply. So, Dave, do you think it is worth the $40 to go to a 4GB GTX 960 over a 2GB GTX 960, and why? Taboo agrees.
At 1080p, not 1440p or 4K?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. $40. I think it could go either way. I don't think you're going to see huge gains for the 4 gig card at just normal HD.
At 1080p right now.
Right now. But if you're big into like texture mods and stuff like that, maybe spring for the 4 gig. Like, buy once, cry once. Think about it.
My suggestion is if you're willing to spend $240 on a graphics card, walk on down the street to AMD, drop $240, wait for a sale, and pick up an R9 290, which, when overclocked, is competitive
Their current
with
flagship card
is competitive with a GTX 980. It is competitive with. Pick one of those up on a sale and pop that in your computer, and you'll be set for years. And it will work on your 500 watt power supply, albeit just barely. You want to make sure your power supply has enough plugs to run it, though, so you're going to want to double check that. If you don't want to get an R9 290 or you don't want to wait for a sale, get an R9 280 or 280X. It's going to be about $200 to $230 when not on sale, and that is going to wipe the floor with the GTX 960, and it will be fantastic. Now, of course, the GTX 900 series, very power efficient, very quiet, very cool, all things that cannot be said about any of AMD's R9 cards right now. They are, I'm sweating profusely right now because my 290 has been on most of the day and the door is shut to my office. They are little volcanoes, but they have lots of memory and they are stupid fast. And it ebbs back and forth. Like NVIDIA had cards that were this stupid for years. Dave's GTX 480s were like twin space heaters. Like his podcast audio, I wish I still had some of the original files so you guys could hear how obscenely loud those cards were. You know, it ebbs and flows. Right now, NVIDIA is quiet and power efficient, and it'll probably flip back sometime in the future.
When you name a graphics 20 minutes to say all of that, could you just rhyme like Dave did?
I was going to say that, you know, for the 480s, when you name a graphics card series after a guy who invented nuclear reactors, like, you know, it's going to be a little bit warm.
But yeah, I would recommend, if you're going to go AMD, get a R9 280, 280X, or 290. And if you want to go with NVIDIA, probably get the 4GB version just because you're going to feel dumb in a couple years if you had to go back and get the, although, as an alternative, there are open box 970s dropping as low as $260 now. So
even though, probably mine.
Even though it has the 3.5 GB memory issue, for 1080p, it's still fantastic. And if you're playing at 1080p for the next couple of years, you are not going to have problems with the memory limits on that card. Those memory limits, they really suck for people who play at 1440p or 4K. But for people who play at 1080p, they're honestly not a big issue, and they were really trumped up over the internet. It's a scummy thing that NVIDIA tried to get away with that, but it is
real-world application, yeah.
What?
Well, you said it's been trumped up, but the actual real-world application for people playing at 1080 is like,
yeah, exactly. It sucks, but doesn't matter that much. Like, most people never would have known if the internet hadn't gotten all up in a tizzy about it. So,
I would not hesitate to recommend the 970 for just 1080p. Still, like it's a great card for sure.
I think my personal take is 2 GB is just a bit limiting. I've got 3 gig on mine. It's not much that it won't play, but yeah, as you said, if you get into mods at all, like it becomes an issue. You get stuttering, and even if you're playing at 1080, if you want to have like texture resolutions over like 1024 sort of K textures, then you're going to run into memory limits.
Anti-aliasing too, where it's having to render like the same frame twice, that really fills up the memory quickly. So if you like nice things, go for the 4 gig if you go for that card.
All right, now back into Bloodborne.
Never asked me what I like.
About Bloodborne?
Yeah. What do you like, Mark?
Yeah, talk to us about what you were going to be next.
I really like how good at it I am.
I knew he was trying to set himself up for something, but we just let him.
No. I really did have a thing like.
No, he really does like how good he is. He really does.
I do.
I'm really seeing Nice Valley now.
Tying into the combat, I was watching someone play Demon's Souls just because I never played it, and I was watching some clips, and I was like, "Oh, you just got hit! Hit the guy back, so you'll get your health back." Oh wait, I love the health regain system.
That is pretty nice.
It's cool.
Very cool. It really just keeps the action flowing so well.
Miyazaki really knows how to play on greed.
And it's a fast game already, and it just makes it faster.
Yeah, it's just like it ties into like when, because my tendency, and I think a lot of people's, when like you're facing a boss, is like once it gets down to just a few more hits, all logic goes out the window, and you're just like trying to hack away, and that's when a lot of people, myself included, die. But like the health regain thing just makes that even worse, and it's just like it makes the game worse and better.
Can I say I've really enjoyed playing with you, Mark, and I feel like I'm finally getting to know your name too.
I know it's so like, weird.
I gotta say the most fun I've had is probably when we get to a boss that's so insanely hard. Going, Jeremiah is gonna be so pissed off when he gets to
I've heard that a lot.
He's gonna be cries of bad game design.
I'm glad that my pissiness has brought you two closer together.
I know, because it'd be me, John, and Mark on, and we're like, oh my gosh, this like thing just like sucked my brains out, and I'd be like, that's bad game design.
I love it.
Great. Fine, Joel. I'm not going to tell you about my troubles. You'll ask how Bloodborne's going. I'll be like, it's fine. I'm going to bring my monitor and I'm going to stick it in my bedroom in the beach house. And I'm not going to come out and I'm not going to play with you. And I'm just going to tell you everything's fine. You won't know how I really feel.
Joel's going to ask Jeremiah, how's Bloodborne going? And Jeremiah's going to go, Joel, how's Arma going?
How's growing going?
Who's going to this beach vacation? And like, what state are you going to?
Not us, apparently.
Shut up.
Get on a plane, guys. fly for 48
All
hours.
4 of us are grown, actually, apparently. Right?
Nice.
Mark is not. I invited Mark.
We're just meeting at your house.
Mark has a standing invitation to leave his family and drive several hours to hang out with people he hasn't met before, but he just doesn't want to do it.
You're weird, Mark.
No, me and my wife, Joel and his wife, Dave and his wife, Debbie and her husband, who's another casual shenanigans person who's not in here this evening, and then our friend Pecor. We're all going to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, a tiny little spit of land, which if you look at it on a map, if you've never heard of the Outer Banks, if you look at it on a map like a satellite view, you'll go, oh, everyone there is going to die if it gets stormy. And that does happen on a yearly basis. There are parts where you could throw a baseball from one side to the other, like from the bay to the ocean. Last year we were there on vacation, and there's one part of the road, the one road. At one part of
one
it,
road.
When the tide comes in, it goes over the road a bit. So we were driving along nice and slow because it's like 6 inches deep and the water's rushing across the road decently fast. And my car I was driving at the time was not exactly a deep water forwarder. And Dave looked out the side window and was like, it's just the ocean. That's all. The ocean came up to the car. We were driving through it, and it was just ocean. Like
I
between
found a
us and
screenshot.
France.
I've got a screenshot. I'm going to put it out there. The tubing you're going to see here, that's a pump. They're trying to pump water actively out of the road as the tide is coming in over the road. It's the tubing for the pump, then the ocean, and then France is like to the right of the car, and like our tires are going through the water like a boat.
And if you're seeing like ridges in the far distance, that's waves breaking as they come in. So like that's.
I just see like picture guys with buckets like scooping the waves back out. Like, get out there, get out.
But yeah, we're going to the Outer
It's like
Banks.
Caligula.
Should be a fun time. What's going to be really fun is tomorrow night, everyone except Pecor is driving down to spend the night in our apartment, and we are going to see Fast and Furious 7 in IMAX, and then everyone's going to spend the night and then get up early and drive to the beach. Well, they're all going to drive to the beach. I have to go photograph a wedding, and then I'll be driving to the beach later.
Damn their happiness.
But yeah, it should be a really fun time. And of course, since this is what we do when we go to the beach, our priorities when we pick a beach house were hot tub,
Oh yeah.
internet access,
And guacamole.
It's not actually that close to the beach because it's not going to be all that warm. And honestly, we're probably not going to go to the beach that many times. We're all going to
That's
play
not what I
video
go for
games.
the beach for.
We're going to play video games, eat lots of food, drink
Tons of
every
food.
evening, sit in the hot tub, and argue with each other for an entire week. And it's going to be magnificent.
And what are your wives going to do?
They're going to eat,
they join in on the
play video
craziness.
games, argue.
Yeah, watch. We play like Cards Against Humanity.
They're going to crochet a lot more.
Oh,
than we
yeah,
are,
so
most
much knitting
likely.
this week.
My wife has gotten all the other.
like the old
wife- my wife
1940s.
has
Like you
gotten
open
the-
a door and they're like,
My wife has gotten all the sister wives into crocheting. Very
Artorias.
nice.
"Oh,
Made by
that's
my partner.
awesome!
Snake.
That's awesome!"
Yeah. She got into crocheting too.
Everyone except for Joel's wife, who's a cross stitcher, so she's like, has to be a little hipster out in her own cross stitching while everyone else
Does that
crochets.
mean that she wears men's clothes?
Ooh, that she sews herself. But yeah, that's where we're going on vacation. Anyway, we've probably talked about this for about 5 minutes more than anyone else thinks this is interesting. So back to back to Bloodborne. Mark, what else do you like about this?
Honestly, I don't have much more to say because I kind of want to play right now.
Well, Mark has beaten the game, so we're going to let Mark talk about it.
One cool thing is like if you can help yourself and save up some insight.
I'd love
it's been proven that not only does it make like some enemies do like even more difficult attacks and stuff like that, but you're also going to see some weird shit in the world that you did not notice before. Especially probably the area that you're most likely in now, Joel. That area.
Now, I have only 12. I have only 12 insight, but I can see all the craziness.
You can.
So I'm curious if it actually has.
popped
If
up
it doesn't
before.
actually do with the insight.
Okay. Well,
It might not actually.
Anyway, that's what
I
I've
feel.
read.
I've had enemies pop into my world randomly, and I think it's because of that. But I think the things you're talking about are just story stuff. Actually.
Okay. Well, I know
But
for a
you
fact
could be
that
right. You could be right.
I know for a fact that one appeared earlier for me than it usually does for you, I guess, since I
weird.
had more insight. But does anyone think much about the Chalice dungeons, or does anyone like them all that much? Because I tried one and I wasn't really loving it.
it just seems like more of the same stuff, really. Like, I feel like it's the same kind of gameplay, the same kind of enemies, really. The boss, I encountered a different boss, but is that a boss that I would have encountered later in the game anyway? I don't know. So it's like, I'm doing the same stuff I was doing before. I don't feel like I'm getting a great reward. I'm not contributing to the storyline, so why am I doing this?
At
Well,
the moment,
to me, it's like taking away one of my favorite things about Bloodborne, like the world, and just kind of like it. Because I like, you know, the new stuff and, like, you know, learning where the enemy placement is and all of that stuff. This is just like, you can do some more combat.
I think
you
it
purely
would have been
take
good
it-
if they saved it for after you beat the game. Because I started playing and I was like,
Right,
wait,
right.
I haven't seen this enemy yet, and I immediately stopped because I didn't want to like have enemies or bosses ruined for me that I haven't seen yet.
Exactly.
But I can actually see myself enjoying it after I've beaten the game, where I'm like, I just want to play a little bit and try something random. Where now that I know the game, it's not gonna be as hard. Like, I've already have a second character playing with Dave. I like ran through the first area. It wasn't even hard at all. Like, it's crazy how hard it is the first time, but once you beat it, you come back and you're like, this is easy. I'm not even leveled up at all. Like, and so I feel like a Bloodborne and Dark Souls, they have this one time only, in a way that has the first time, like, I have no idea where enemies are. I don't know where this thing's gonna jump out and kill you. Like, it only happens once. Once it happens, it's done.
And then you're forever.
You can still enjoy the games that it might be harder and you can do different things and explore more, but you'll never have the, oh crap, that boss comes out of the root of something and like, what, you know? Like the treasure chest boss. Like, you won't have that moment again anymore, you know? Like, it's not
You're
gonna happen.
forever a junkie chasing that high again.
Yeah. Gotta get more blood. But
I think that the only other thing that I've got to say about Dark Souls is that clearly it's a storyline and lore departure from the other Souls games. And sorry, I meant Bloodborne. You know, there's none of the persistence that occurred between Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. And so in a sense, it's kind of like Demon Souls. It's the same kind of game dynamics, but it stands alone. I don't know if it's good or bad. I really don't. Like, in a sense, I think it's good because it's the opportunity to create a new franchise, and it kind of isolates some of the things that might not be fantastic as the game progresses, like the multiplayer aspects. But on the other hand, it's kind of like this is the way that Dark Souls, I think, is meant to be played. From has finally got all the stuff they're supposed to get right, except the multiplayer thing. So I would like that to be where Dark Souls has gone. You know, I just don't think it is.
You want there to be a Dark Souls 3 that's on the Bloodborne engine and takes everything they learned from this?
Yes, that is what I want. That would be awesome.
I really, really hope, they do a Dark Souls 3, but I hope they make the characters how they felt in the first game. Like, Dark Souls 2 was very fun, but they felt weird. And going back to Bloodborne, I'm like, like, this feels like Dark Souls 1 again. Like,
basically, every time Joel goes back to Bloodborne, he goes, that's Joel's Bloodborne face every time he thinks about it.
Guess what I'm playing right now? Oh man, I'm playing this game. I'm just happy that I have a game like this, because I feel like these games just don't come around often. Like, that are just that much attention to detail, like just the graphics, the area, it's awesome. Like, it's like, it just doesn't happen very often. I think it's like an Uncharted game. Like, those games are just so polished. There's games like that don't happen that often.
I could argue that this game is not as polished as an Uncharted game, but I understand what you're saying. It's a landmark game.
The gameplay is more polished.
It's a jumping on point for a lot of people who have bought PlayStation 4s who didn't play any of the Souls series. Like, the new generation of gamers, maybe the PlayStation 4 is their first or second console. Maybe they're just now old enough to play the series. Bloodborne's going to be a starting point for a lot of them, and I think it's probably going to make a lot of people really excited to play the Souls series.
If they can update just a few things with the summoning and a little bit of load times, like, if that's really the things that most people are ticked off with, that's nothing compared to, most of the games
last
around here.
year.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you look, I mean, there's, tens of like reviews, like just tons of reviews, like 9.5, 10s, 9.1, 19 or 10. And I'm like, if the only problem is loading, it's like, I'm okay with loading. I don't give a crap. Like, yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but whatever. I'm playing a really fun game. I'm not loading in to play a really bad game. So,
Exactly.
So I think they're going to be able to fix it too. I think they'll be able to improve it quite a bit.
I hope so. The loading screens, I don't think they're going to have any joy on, but other than that, I think you're right.
I mean, they can optimize things. I think loading screens can shorten, definitely. They'll
I hope
do
they
that
had items. I hope they had
optimization.
items and stuff on the loading screens. That's the only thing I do
that would
miss.
make it a little better if they maybe
stuff you can
explained,
read,
if they had lore explanations or explanations
Yeah.
of random items on the loading screen, because that would be a kind of a, hey, if you're looking at this loading screen a bunch, you're probably dying a bunch. Here's a tiny trickle little here's a little nugget of information that'll maybe help you next time. Just little, maybe tiny little hints.
Make sure
Most
to get
hints in games.
Grab a shield that can actually shield you.
In most games, like the little tips on the loading screen, you just ignore every time. In Skyrim, it's like, did you know you can find flowers in the woods? And you're like, whatever. But in Bloodborne, I would read them. You bet the crap I would read them just because I'd be like, please, someone tell me any amount of information that would be helpful.
I guess with Bloodborne, it's just like, I was just going to say, I guess with Bloodborne, it's just like, it just fucked you in the ass, and then it just wants to do something to your face so you know who did it. That's why you have to see the
name. Mark, you're insane. Mark, clearly, Mark is hilarious. I think Mark is friggin' funny as hell. Joel, I think you're extremely good at conceptualizing abstract concepts and explaining them. Dave, I'm very envious of your amazing beard and that gun you have on the wall. Germ, I think you have this really amazing radio voice. You'll get there.
I have something.
Thanks, Church. Fuck you.
I know you guys have Australian accents, so I know Americans don't sound exotic to anybody, but Australian accents just sound exotic. You guys could be like Australian rednecks for all we know. And we're like, oh, sounds so good. Ooh.
So you have this stereotypical redneck in America was like this real southern twang, but in Australia there's this thing we call ochre, this really like, yeah, how's it going, mate? Like it's this really obnoxious, grating like, yeah, throw another shrimp on the barbie, fucker, Oh, really.
Hey, cunt.
Yeah,
That's a knife.
It's gross.
Yeah, see, all our redneck stuff is just slurring your words mostly. Like everything, if it makes you sound like you got a little bit of chaw in your cheek and you're a little bit drunk, that's basically the American redneck accent.
So that's going to be us all week long.
Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about? We have been podcasting for about 2 hours, so...
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
You have to head out
No.
soon,
the last podcast we did with you guys, I think, is still the longest we've ever done, and it's one of our most popular, so we're not reining this thing in at all. You guys are a ton of fun.
Yeah, this is so much fun.
I wish I could have you guys on more,
you can come back
these
every
PC
week.
Master
You want to get
Race
up
bastards won't let me. So
every week you want to come on at 7:30 in the morning your time and talk to us. You're more than welcome to.
See you next Good Friday.
Yeah, I think we should just do this a yearly kind of arrangement.
We'll make it.
I'd be happy to do that.
The Easter tradition. That sounds good. But yeah, does anyone have anything else they want to talk about with Bloodborne that you liked, that you hated, that you just thought of?
I'll throw in just my final opinion because I didn't actually throw in anything for the good stuff. Just because, honestly, my opinion is kind of vanilla and boring. Joel has mainly converted me to the series, I think. I'm actually a pretty big fan. If I had more time, I think I would have beaten Dark Souls 2 before Bloodborne, but freelance stuff just took over. And I really am enjoying the game. I'm definitely playing it in my own way. I was level 26 when I beat the second boss. I've harvested the first area probably 20 sometimes. I bought every piece of weapon and gear that you can in this point of the game. I have it all right now.
Wow.
I
love the exploring, and the combat is so much fun. So yeah, honestly, I don't have any huge complaints. I think kind of like Joel, most of my complaints are nitpicky, although I'm definitely sympathetic to Jeremiah's points too. But I'm definitely the vanilla, boring, middle of the road opinion.
To be fair, Dave, by the time you've since you level up so much just running around playing with stuff, by the time you get to most of the bosses, I don't think you're experiencing most of the frustrations I am.
You're just gonna one hit them with a whip, or one Molotov, you're like, oh, gone.
Joel and Mark were in my party when I beat the second boss, and I'm trying to upload the clip. I saved it, get it to YouTube so you guys can see. I summoned someone, which took 45 minutes, by the way, because people kept spawning in. I couldn't figure out where they were. I'd just be getting souls in the corner. And after a while, they would just leave.
Yeah,
I could never actually find them. So after 45 minutes, I had a guy who came with me into the boss fight. He was so powerful, and I leveled up so much. We beat the boss in 40 seconds. I used one flask, and we didn't so much fight the boss as we ping-ponged him back and forth between heavy attacks between the two of us. He just went back and forth like we were the boss. He was fighting us. It was hilarious. I'm trying to get it uploaded so you guys can see.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Here with you. You are locked in here with me.
Yeah, I love that line. Exactly. Dave, you're going to be level 120 by the time you get to the Bloodstarved Beast. And it's just going to be like, oh, shit, and just go the other way and you won. You won. I'm excited for you guys to get further because once you kind of get out of the first initial kind of castle area, specifically the forest, holy crap.
You've talked a lot about the forest.
To me, it's so far it's my favorite area. I think aesthetically, just gameplay wise, like it's rough, but it really feels like you're trudging through this like. It's kind of what I always wanted in a Zelda game. Like you actually go into a forest, it feels like it's deep and dark, and you're just like you're never gonna make it out. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Think of like the story in Princess Bride when he's talking about the creepy forest, but it actually looking creepy. But like it just feels like that. I'm like, oh, what is going to happen around the next turn? So
I think that's the one thing I sort of do just wish they changed a little for those that are sort of new to the series. Like the first 3 bosses are quite difficult. The third one especially is like you bash your head against it. I feel a lot of people are going to leave the game at that point and not continue. And I just feel like the Dark Souls 1, like, it wasn't as linear. And at this point, you're saying it's going to open up after this. I'm just concerned that that first stretch of 3 bosses is a bit linear, and it might deter a few people. If you could just sort of go, okay,
I definitely
I'm just
agree,
going to go
I
somewhere
will say it
else and do
actually
something
already has
else.
opened up. If you're fighting the blood-starved beast.
Yeah, there is another
yeah,
way.
I didn't realize there was
say.
another way I could go.
Yeah.
You guys have told me repeatedly I don't have to fight the blood-starved beast right now. This is probably also a character flaw that's going to not help me with this game. I very stubbornly do not want to go anywhere else until I have beaten the blood-starved beast. All I
know
want
that
to
feeling.
do
I want
is just
him dead.
hurl myself on the bricks over and over again until I finally inch my way through them. I don't want to go explore. Now, maybe on the next boss, I'll do that. But right now, it feels personal, just like I did with Father Gascon. I was like, I don't care if there's like 100,000 blood things over in some room over there I can go get. I want that dude.
Nice.
I know that feeling.
Well, if the
Okay,
beckoning
guys.
bell works this week, we'll do it.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for having us on the show yet again. It's been
Absolutely,
awesome
man.
fun.
Thank
So
you
much
guys.
fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out. Again, I realize it's kind of like early in the morning for you guys, but we appreciate it.
Well, I was
It's
thinking
nice to
that,
have someone
like,
so ethnic.
Oh, it's so nice
Says
to have
the
white
black
people
guy.
from a different place.
we're Australian. We are intimately familiar with beer, and yet I've got to say the only time in my life I've ever drunk beer before 8 o'clock in the morning is due to the influence of Americans.
Amateur. I do it regularly.
Now, just I don't know if you have Dewclaw where you guys are from, but the Dewclaw Hellraiser I've been drinking tonight. If you like IPAs, it is amazingly fantastic. It's one of the best, even though it looks incredibly juvenile. It looks like the Bud Light Halloween edition. It's fantastic. What do you guys?
Your checks
have
in the
this
mail,
evening?
Jeremiah.
Well, we're drinking this purely the ducks, purely on the basis of my girlfriend bought it and she likes duck.
Yeah, I don't think they sell that around here.
Yeah, and they shouldn't. It's not bad, but it's mid strength, and it's like if
They're
they're
American,
selling.
they drink light.
Oh, that's
they don't
right.
Drink full strength.
No,
have full strength
no.
beers.
Not this crew. Pause. Joel drinks wine coolers almost exclusively.
I drink hard ciders too.
Last year on the beach vacation, Joel ran
I
out.
don't like the
love this.
taste. I
We had
can't
to run
physically
out-
drink them.
We had to
They're just
run
not
out and
fun.
get him more Seagram's wine coolers. The carton of wine coolers came with a nail polish sampler kit. Because that was the market they were being sent to.
I
And
was like, but it
Dave
tastes
was
so
so
fruity,
excited.
and I can take care of my nails.
But no,
But at least I can beat Dark Souls.
that's true.
It's because my
actually
fingernails are so smooth.
I beat a boss that was like way higher. Like I went through this whole area that I know I should not have been in that early in the game in Bloodborne the other night, and I beat the boss. And so I was feeling super cocky, so I went off and beat this other boss that was way further than I should have been. And then I beat him without using any vials, so I had to drink some Elijah Craig 12 to calm down. I couldn't
Nice.
do it without it.
You're talking about cheap beer again, since we're way off the rails right at the end. I was in a store the other day, and there was this one called the King's English, and it was a full pint, and it was a really cool looking bottle, like an old looking pirate ship on
Awesome.
it. Yeah, it looked really awesome. And it was like $2. So the part of me that knows how much stuff costs was like, this isn't going to be good. I was like, but this looks really good. And I got it and had it 2 weeks ago on the podcast, and it was all I could do to not like pucker the entire time. It was like drinking penny water the entire time.
What's penny water?
Like if you put pennies in water, it's not a real thing. I'm saying like it tastes like pennies.
Okay, I was really hoping that's what it was, 'cause I know what that tastes like, but I
right,
was like,
that's
I
American
thought it was just
money.
cheap.
That's American money. Copper. Pennies are copper. Or they have a copper
Okay.
coating on them. So it tastes like sucking on a penny.
I've never heard of this. You guys are weird people with your money in the water. Put the money in your wallet, you idiot. I mean, far out. It's ridiculous.
Stop all being criminals, you weirdos. I don't.
Are you saying we should change?
Mark is like the one guy by the bonfire in Old Yarnum who just waits for you to turn your back and just bides his time. When you think you're safe, Mark pops in and is like, stab. Those are Mark's jokes.
Most of the time, I'm stabbing with like just a blanket. It doesn't work, but sometimes they hit.
Well, it's like you're just stabbing with like a floppy dildo. Most of the time, you're totally going to miss your mark, and it's not going to hurt at all. But that one or two times, but sometimes, I think we've pushed our explicit rating probably farther than we normally do for this podcast. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it down. But thank you guys very much for coming out. And I know you've taken a little bit of sabbatical from podcasting. Would you like to pimp out your podcast for you want us to send people towards it? Because we've picked up some people since last year when we had you on. There's going to be quite a few people who are going to listen to this. So where should people go find you?
Sure. So if anybody is playing Dark Souls 2, it's a game that, is replayable for many, many years, so you can come in at any point. We've covered every area of the game, except the last sort of sections at the moment, so you can listen at any point. You don't need to listen every week. We are thedarksouls2.com, facebook.com/thedarksouls2, twitch.tv/thedarksouls2, twitter.com/thedarksouls2.
So consistent.
youtube.com/thedarksouls2.
And a shout out to our weird kind of like, you ever have like a relative that's just really odd and you like keep him around even though he's kind of like, you'd rather this wouldn't come to Easter. The Dong Souls 2 is some fans made kind of fan podcast /site /series of images, the Dong Souls 2.
That's a lot of work to put into a joke.
It's mostly Twitter, yeah.
I don't think they ever did a podcast, did they?
No,
they were talking about it.
Yeah. It's humorous.
Go check out the Dong Souls 2 then. And as always, you can follow us at Casual Shenanigans, at Germ Gaming, at Evil Viking on Twitter, Evil Viking 13 on YouTube. Now, we have to tell you, there's not going to be a live podcast next week because of the aforementioned vacation, but we will record a podcast. James will be back for that one. He couldn't make it this evening. And we're going to record it at the beach, and then we'll put it live sometime after we get home. So there is going to be a podcast next week, just not live. But thank you for everyone who came out this time. Thank you to the Dark Souls 2. You guys are awesome. And honestly, I know it's horrifically inconvenient, but you are welcome to come back anytime.
For sure.
All right. That was weird.
That was weird. All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you having us on the show.
Recovering with the whole dog face.
Yeah. We didn't touch on it too much, but dude, your face got ripped up.
Oh, can I just say one thing before we go? Like, it's going to be really, really quick. Like, super, super quick. So, did you guys hear my joke on the podcast about his face?
I've heard quite a few. Which one?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like,
which one?
So within minutes of hearing about this, I thought of this joke and I thought someone else is going to say it. I'm going to save it for the podcast. I'm not going to pull it out, but someone else is going to say it. It's going to be ruined. And just by the grace of God, it just didn't happen. So I said to him on the podcast, mate, I've been warning you about this for years and you haven't heeded my warnings and I don't have any sympathy for you because I tried to stop this from happening and you weren't interested. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, bullshit. I marched up to you 12 times and I said, mate, you've got a face like a dog's breakfast.
So what happened?
Yeah.
Did a dog just like take a swipe at you out of the blue, or
Friend's dog. Went around to visit him, let myself in the first gate, stuck my nose over the second gate because I forgot that they had this dog. They've always used to have like little terriers, and so I heard scuffling behind the second gate and stuck my nose over, and he jumped up and grabbed it.
Sounds like a real bitch.
Man.
2 weeks in hospital, 3 surgeries, 2 weeks of nurses coming to my house every day to change dressings, potentially from 1 to 5 more.
But you guys have a good healthcare system, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the best part is, haven't paid $1 at all yet.
Except for taxes.
Well, yeah.
I accept socialism into my heart.
Cool. Well,
Thanks, guys, once again.
yeah,
Appreciate
actually,
it.
Thank you very
so
much
for coming out. Thank
See
you
you,
so
Aaron.
much.
So much fun.
Thank you everyone else for coming out and listening to us, and we will see you live again in 2 weeks' time. Now, Taboo and Church, do you guys remember how we close the podcast out? Because we normally have our guests do it, but you remember the intro. I don't want to put you on the spot for remembering the outro, though.
Stay casual.
Oh, you got it. Sweet. All right, bye.